Chapter 5582. Ji Yufei and the mysterious master behind the emperor had finally met. When the two experts met, there would definitely be a battle. There was no suspense. Ji Yufei and the mysterious black-clothed youth began to fight, creating a huge black hole in the sky above Nanman. The laws of heaven and earth in the void realm could no longer suppress the power of these two experts. The void was directly shattered by their power. In the black hole, the chaotic chi was vast and mighty. A terrifying aura of destruction erupted from the black hole in the sky. The billions of living beings in Nanman were all extremely terrified. All the infinite primes gathered in Nanman Imperial City also sensed Ji Yufei and another powerful aura that was not weaker than Ji Yufei's. There's actually someone who can fight against Master. All the infinite primes in the Nanman Imperial Palace in Nanman Imperial City were stunned. That aura was too powerful. It was definitely not weaker than Ji Yufei's. It seemed that Ji Yufei had met his match this time. However, all the infinite primes in the palace knew very well how powerful Ji Yufei was. Whether it was the limitless demon lord or the limitless snow demon, they had both fought with Ji Yufei before. However, there was actually an existence that could fight against Ji Yufei in the void realm. This was unbelievable because they had never sensed this aura before. This person could actually hide in the void realm for so long without being discovered by them. This was enough to show how powerful and terrifying this person was. All the infinite primes in the palace did not even dream that the mysterious person who was fighting with Ji Yufei was not an infinite prime in the void realm, but from the infinite world. Of course, it was impossible for an infinite prime to be born in the void realm because the void realm did not have the conditions to give birth to an infinite prime. As for Ji Yufei, he was originally an infinite prime. It was just that when he was fighting with the infinite prime in Eternal World, he accidentally broke through the void and entered the void realm. At that time, he had just entered the infinite prime and his realm was not that stable. That was why his cultivation was suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth of this world. Among the native living beings of the void realm, there had never been a single living being who could cultivate to the infinite prime realm. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone, the everlasting snow demon, and the everlasting demon lord weren't natives of the void realm. They all came from the same place, the everlasting realm. The limitless realm was the true supreme world. This was also the reason why the limitless demon master and the others wanted to return to the limitless realm so badly. This was because the myriad worlds were just too insignificant to existences like them. Only the infinite world was the true stage for infinite primes like them. At this time, Ji Yufei and the mysterious black-robed youth were engaged in a fierce battle in the primordial chaos. In this place, they didn't have to worry about anything. They could use all of their powers and didn't need to worry that their battle would affect the creatures in the ethereal extent. However, their auras still came out of the black hole above southern wilderness and appeared in the void realm. Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones watched the battle from within the primal chaos. This battle was extremely important to them and even the entire void realm. The outcome of this battle would directly determine the fate of the entire void realm. This was because Ji Yufei was the current master of the void realm. He was the most powerful person in the entire void sky. If Ji Yufei was defeated by this mysterious black-robed youth, then this black-robed youth would become the master of the void realm. As for Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones, these infinite primes would be doomed. Of course, Ji Yufei might not necessarily lose. Boom. Bam. Muffled sounds of collisions rang out continuously in the primal chaos. The two figures completely ignored this land of primal chaos. They moved quickly within the primal chaos and fought endlessly. "Little fellow, you are destined to be no match for me," the black-robed youth said calmly as he attacked. The black-clothed young man said indifferently as he struck out. He seemed to be swinging around casually, not using his full strength at all. He was also constantly devouring the surrounding chaotic force. TSK, it's just devouring chaotic force. This isn't some amazing ability. Ji Yufei didn't think much of it. In the next moment, a powerful ripple of energy erupted from his body. Then, the surrounding chaotic force, or even all kinds of energy, gathered towards him and was directly devoured by him. What? Sensing the changes in the surrounding energy, the black-robed youth's expression finally changed. No wonder even the Empress's head was swollen by this little guy. He didn't expect this little guy to have grasped such an ability. Jiyu Fei could also devour the energy around him. In other words, his energy was limitless, and there was no limit to it. However, the black-robed youth could also devour energy from the outside world. That way, the two of them were really evenly matched. Neither could suppress the other for a while. Time passed, and the battle continued. They've been fighting for so long. Why hasn't a victor been decided yet? All the infinite primes who were watching this battle were extremely nervous. This was because the outcome of this battle was just too important. In particular, the Empress and Mo Ying in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion were eager for Jiyu Fei to suffer and be defeated by their master. However, an hour passed, and the battle continued. 2 hours passed, and the battle continued. 6 hours passed, and the battle continued. What's going on? The Empress and Mo Ying were indescribably shocked. Even someone as powerful as their master couldn't defeat Jiyu Fei. In their eyes, their master was omnipotent. The mysterious black-robed youth's strength had long been deeply imprinted in the Empress's and Mo Ying's hearts. If even their master couldn't defeat Jiyu Fei, then Jiyu Fei was really powerful. I also want to know why master hasn't been able to defeat Jiyu Fei after so long. Mo Ying said in a solemn tone. In the hall of the Imperial Palace of Nanman Royal City, a group of infinite primes were also very anxious. All right, we've played for so long. It's time to end it. In the chaos, the black-robed youth forced back Jiyu Fei with a punch and then said indifferently, "I've played enough. Then let's be more serious." Jiyu Fei smiled. "Huh. Interesting." When the black-robed youth heard this, he was a little surprised. This little guy actually hasn't used his full strength. This little guy is really different. This time, coming here from the lower realm is really full of surprises. It seems that this trip was not in vain. Encountering such an opponent, Jiyu Fei naturally had to figure out this guy's method first. He hadn't used his real trump card yet. All right, then let's be serious. As the black-robed youth said, he made a fist stance. As soon as he made this fist stance, the surrounding chaotic chi was directly dispersed by a wave of power that spread out from his body. And Jiyu Fei also made a fist stance. He and the black-robed youth were simply opposing each other. The black-robed youth used his fist to speak, and Jiyu Fei also used his fist to speak. It depended on whose fist was harder. Whoever's fist was harder would be the boss. Chapter 5583. The huge black hole in the sky didn't disappear. It was still there. Jiyu Fei and the black-clothed youth released a powerful aura from the black hole. The billions of beings in the south were terrified. There was nothing they could do. Both Jiyu Fei and the black-clothed youth were the strongest existences in the void realm. Their auras were extremely powerful. Their battle made it hard for the broken space in the void realm to repair. This caused all the infinite prime realm experts in the Imperial Palace of the Southern Man's Imperial City to be indescribably shocked. The laws of heaven and earth in the void realm were very powerful. After the void realm shattered, it would be repaired very quickly by the world energy. At this moment, Jiyu Fei and the black-clothed youth finally became serious. Boom tilde tilde tilde. The two of them each unleashed a fist stance and two tyrannical auras clashed against each other, causing the surrounding chaos energy to disperse. These two, Yang Wu, who was watching from afar, couldn't help but be surprised. The cultivation and battle power of these two seemed to be a little higher than hers, but it was just a little. On the other hand, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone retreated even further away. The energy coming from the two of them was too strong. "Little guy, I'll give you the chance to attack first. Come." The black-clothed youth suddenly said to Jiyu Fei. "Haha, don't be so polite. You should attack first." Jiyu Fei smiled. "You should attack first. After all, you're a junior." The black-clothed youth said. "What are you saying? You're a senior. Isn't it normal for a junior to give way to a senior? Go ahead." Jiyu Fei wouldn't fall for it. This guy definitely had some tricks up his sleeve if he wanted to attack first. Existences at their level definitely had a lot of trump cards. If the other party used his trump card, it wouldn't be a joke. It was the same for Jiu Fei to let the other party attack first. If the other party attacked first, he would reveal a flaw. Once that happened, Jiu Fei would use his trump card to defeat him. You first. You first. You first. You first, my ass. Are you going to attack first or not? The two of them were bickering. When Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones saw this, they were stunned. What were these two doing? These two fellows were all talk and no action. Were they just shooting their mouths off? What are you guys doing? Yang Wu could not take it anymore. She yelled at the two fellows who were bickering with each other. You're infinite primes after all. Why are you fighting like children? Yang Wu was speechless. This is our business. Why are you interfering? Jiu Fei said impatiently. That's right. This is a matter between two men. Women shouldn't interrupt. The black-robed youth also said. You bastards, you're too awesome. Yang Wu was furious. Only now do you know how awesome we are. Jiu Fei said helplessly. You two bastards, do you want to fight? I have all the time in the world. Yang Wu immediately took out a table and a chair from her inner world and placed fine wine and delicacies on it. She enjoyed the food while watching the two fellows. When Jiu Fei and the black-robed youth saw this, they were speechless. I say, don't talk nonsense, hurry up and make your move. Jiu Fei said to the black-robed youth impatiently. If you can't take it anymore, you can attack first. There's no need to wait for me. The black-robed youth said disapprovingly. I'm giving you face but you don't want it. Jiu Fei was furious. I'm being shameless. What can you do to me? The black-robed youth said proudly. Ayo, what can I do to you? Do you believe that I won't beat you up? Jiu Fei said fiercely. Then come at me. Attack. The black-robed youth looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. Jiu Fei stared at this fellow and gritted his teeth. He really wanted to punch this detestable fellow's face, but his rationality told him not to be impulsive. After all, the consequences of being impulsive were very serious. Jiu Fei had suffered a lot along the way. It was not easy for him to achieve what he had today. How could someone like him, who had gone through so many hardships, fall for the black-robed youth's trap? The black-robed youth was also a super antique. His rich combat experience was definitely not inferior to Jiu Fei's. When these two people met, they were destined to collide with bright sparks. Attack me then. After saying that, Jiu Fei was about to attack. However, he stopped. The black-robed youth was depressed. His opponent was not going to attack. Their cultivation and combat strength were about the same. It was just a matter of who would show a flaw first. Whoever showed a flaw first would be the unlucky one. However, there was no guarantee that one would show a flaw if he attacked. I'm going to attack. Watch carefully. Jiu Fei said deliberately in a loud voice. When the black-robed youth heard this, he naturally stared at Jiu Fei. However, at this moment, two figures quietly pounced on the black-robed youth from behind. Me. The black-robed youth sneered. In the next moment, countless fist shadows appeared in the void, blasting at Jiu Fei and the two figures behind him. In fact, he had been pretending all along. There was no way the black-robed youth did not know that he would not show a flaw when he attacked. 3 pure ones in one breath. Jiu Fei used one of the 9 secrets of immortal Tao. At the same time, his main body made a move. This was equivalent to 3 Jiu Feis attacking the black-robed youth at the same time. No matter how strong the black-robed youth was, there was no way he could withstand the combined attack of 3 Jiu Feis. Without any suspense, the black-robed youth was directly punched in the face by Jiu Fei, and he was sent flying. You bastard, hitting my face? The black-robed youth was furious. No one had ever dared to hit his face. He was the one who did it to others. But now, he was being slapped in the face by this kid. How could this be? Boom. Amidst the chaos, an unimaginably berserk power erupted violently. The enraged black-robed youth seemed to have changed into a different person. His entire body was blooming with a divine fire that even Ji Fei had never seen before. A single strand of divine fire seemed to be able to destroy an entire world. "Oh, you're mad. Didn't I just punch you once? Don't be angry. Why don't I let you punch me back? Of course, you must have the ability to do so." Ji Fei was very pleased with himself. The black-robed youth's eyes shot out two almost tangible beams of divine light as he stared at Ji Fei. Swoosh. In the next moment, he suddenly disappeared into the void. Almost at the same time, the three Ji Feis also disappeared into the void. Boom. Bam. In the chaos, shadows kept flashing. The three Ji Feis and the enraged black-robed youth were fighting intensely. "How is this possible? You're a clone!" Ji Fei suddenly exclaimed. "What?" Yang Wu, who was enjoying her meal in the distance, shot up from her chair. This mysterious black-robed youth was just a clone? Chapter 5584. Ji Fei used one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the 3 Pure One's secret technique, to fight against the mysterious black-robed youth. This was equivalent to 3 Ji Feis attacking at the same time. No matter how strong the black-robed youth was, there was no way he could stop 3 Ji Feis. As soon as they clashed, the black-robed youth was punched in the face by Ji Fei. This was truly a slap to the face, and it was a resounding slap. When had the black-robed youth ever been slapped in the face? The enraged black-robed youth went berserk. However, when the black-clothed youth unleashed his full power, his secret was immediately exposed. He couldn't hide it anymore. This black-robed youth was just a clone. This was because Ji Fei and Yang Wu couldn't sense a complete soul aura from this black-robed youth. In other words, this wasn't his main body at all. How is this possible? Ji Fei stared at this fella surrounded by divine flames. He couldn't help but be shocked. Just a clone was already so powerful. Wouldn't this fella's main body be heaven-defying? This black-robed youth had the cultivation and battle prowess to fight against Ji Fei. Although Sacred Master Void Sky's clone was also very strong, it was still very weak in front of Ji Fei and Yang Wu. He was completely oppressed by them. Therefore, Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone couldn't compare to this black-robed youth at all. They weren't even on the same level. Just what kind of person could cultivate such a powerful clone? Thoughts spun in Ji Fei's mind, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Figures flashed in the primal chaos. 3 Ji Feis joined forces to fight the black-robed youth. Meanwhile, Ji Fei's main body disappeared into the void without anyone noticing. Those 3 Ji Feis weren't actually Ji Fei's main body. Even so, the black-robed youth was still struggling. Bam! One of Ji Fei's clones was sent flying by the black-robed youth and smashed into the primal chaos. In the primal chaos, there was no such thing as time or space. The entire primal chaos was in the most primitive state of primal chaos. It was a kind of existence before heaven and earth was formed. Meanwhile, the other 2 incarnations of Ji Fei made their moves. Bam! With a muffled sound, one of Ji Fei's clones punched the black-robed youth's shoulder, causing him to stagger. What? This incarnation of Ji Fei was taken aback. This guy actually became so powerful all of a sudden. Boom! At this moment, the black-robed youth ruthlessly swept his leg across the waist of Ji Fei's clone. Ji Fei's clone immediately flew out. "You little brat, you don't even know who you're facing." The black-robed youth reached out with his right hand and grabbed the neck of the last incarnation of Ji Fei, lifting it into the air. Boom! The moment the black-robed young man released the power in his hand, Ji Fei's incarnation was shattered and dissipated into the void. However, at the very next moment, the incarnation that was shattered by the black-robed youth's tyrannical power reappeared in the distance and rapidly reassembled itself. This is the first time I've seen such a sacred art. Interesting. At this moment, the black-robed youth's eyes lit up. This sacred art that Ji Fei had executed was not simple. Ji Fei's incarnations could actually reassemble themselves in an instant. As such, the black-robed youth could not get rid of these incarnations at all. If he wanted to get rid of these incarnations, there was probably only one way, and that was to get rid of Ji Fei's main body. However, He could not sense the aura of Ji Yufei's main body at all. The black-robed youth truly did not expect such a powerful existence to appear in the lower realm. To think that such a powerful existence could actually conceal himself perfectly in front of him. Apart from those few fellas in the unbounded realm, there had never been anyone who could conceal their aura perfectly in front of him. At this moment, the other two incarnations of Ji Yufei had already returned. Damn it! The black-robed youth displayed his prowess and continuously blasted away the three incarnations of Ji Yufei. However, the three incarnations of Ji Yufei were not to be trifled with. The black-robed youth was also hit by the three incarnations of Ji Yufei many times. However, the attacks of Ji Yufei's incarnations were simply like scratching an itch to him. They could not hurt him at all. Cowardly as a mouse, do you dare to come out and fight? The black-robed youth shouted. He wanted to provoke Ji Yufei and force Ji Yufei's main body to come out and fight him. However, Ji Yufei would not make such a low-level mistake. Of course, the black-robed youth had no way of forcing Ji Yufei's main body out. Hence, he used such a stupid method. This was the primal chaos, a place that was extremely chaotic. By hiding here, even someone as strong as the black-robed youth would not be able to find Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei's main body did not care about the black-robed youth at all. How preposterous. You are considered a powerhouse of your generation. How can you be such a coward? The black-robed youth continued. Haha, I am indeed a coward. What can you do to me? One of Ji Yufei's incarnations laughed. Bam! The response to Ji Yufei's incarnation was a fist. The black-robed youth directly punched the face of Ji Yufei's incarnation, sending it flying and almost causing its head to explode. The black-robed youth's entire body was enveloped by his divine fire. Wherever Ji Yufei's incarnation was hit, this terrifying divine fire would attach itself to it. Wherever the black-robed youth's fist landed, a layer of flesh would be burned off. However, these three incarnations of Ji Yufei were not existences with flesh and blood. Moreover, they could instantly reassemble. No matter how powerful the black-robed youth's divine fire was, it was useless. The purpose of Ji Yufei's three incarnations was actually very simple. It was to exhaust the black-robed youth's energy. Although the black-robed youth could absorb energy from his surroundings, the primordial chi that he consumed was far greater than the spirit chi that he absorbed from the outside world. Therefore, Ji Yufei's method was very effective. You want to exhaust my primordial chi? How could the black-robed youth not know what Ji Yufei's goal was? However, knowing was one thing, and how to break it was another. It would not be easy for the black-robed youth to escape from his current predicament. Haha, exciting, exciting. Yang Wu laughed loudly. This battle was extremely exciting. How many years had it been since she had seen such an exciting battle? This fellow, Ji Yufei, was very capable. He actually managed to cultivate three incarnations. This fellow really hid his strength well. Yang Wu was very interested in the mystique that Ji Yufei had displayed. Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation was also shocked by the mystique that Ji Yufei had displayed. One Ji Yufei was already strong enough to oppress her. Now, there were three more Yinghuas. Was there anyone in this world who could be a match for this fellow? All of you, go to hell. At this moment, the black-robed youth suddenly roared angrily. In the next instant, the three incarnations of Ji Yufei were sent flying by him at the same time. The black-robed youth was extremely tyrannical. However, the instant the black-robed youth sent the three incarnations flying, a fist directly smashed into the black-robed youth's back. Chapter 5585. Amidst the chaos, the black-robed youth unleashed his power and sent all three of Ji Yufei's clones flying. The extremely tyrannical power wreaked havoc in the primal chaos. Even Yang Wu and Holy Master Void Sky's clones, who were watching from the sidelines, were shocked by this scene. It was just a clone, but it was actually this powerful. It was truly unbelievable. If a clone was already so powerful, wouldn't the mysterious black-robed youth's true body be unimaginably powerful? Even Yang Wu was stunned when she thought of this. However, just as the black-robed youth sent all three of Ji Yufei's clones flying, Ji Yufei's true body made a move. With just a punch, Ji Yufei's true body landed on the back of the black-robed youth. "Haha, are you trying to scratch an itch for me?" The black-robed youth mocked. "Is that so?" A cold smile appeared on Ji Yufei's face. In the next moment, a powerful force erupted from the fist that landed on the black-robed youth's back. The black-robed youth's expression changed drastically. The sound of bones breaking came from his body. Then, with a boom, his entire body exploded. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, both Yang Wu and Sacred Lord Void Sky were stunned. Their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Ji Yufei actually destroyed this mysterious fellow with a single punch. There was no doubt that the mysterious black-robed youth was powerful. No one expected Ji Yufei to destroy this fellow with a single punch. This scene was too unbelievable. This was especially so for Yang Wu. She had fought with this black-robed youth before and knew how powerful and terrifying he was. "Harais, I thought this fellow was incredible. It turns out that he's only SOSO." Ji Yufei retracted his fist and said disappointedly. Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones were speechless. Rumble, at this moment, the entire chaos void suddenly shook violently. Boundless chaotic aura gathered, and a huge figure appeared in the chaos. Ji Yufei and the others looked at this scene in shock. This chaos giant was so huge that it could actually support a piece of chaos. It was like a giant that created the world, as if it could open up a world in the chaos with a wave of its hand. "I didn't kill this guy." Ji Yufei looked at the chaos giant and couldn't help but frown. Sure enough, the mysterious black-clothed youth had some ability. He wasn't as useless as Ji Yufei had imagined. Although Ji Yufei's punch was extremely powerful, it wasn't enough to kill him. Ji Yufei's previous punch had been incredible. He had used the Ascension Secret Technique, one of the 9 secrets of the Immortal Tao, and the Extreme Breaker Fist. Even Yang Wu had not been able to block the combined might of these two powers. Originally, Ji Yufei was very confident in the punch he had just thrown. It was a punch he had thrown with all his strength. He had thought that he would be able to destroy this fellow's body and soul with a single punch. Who would have thought that this fellow would still be able to use the chaotic energy to reform his incarnation? Moreover, his battle prowess seemed to be even greater than before. The chaos giant threw a punch at Ji Yufei. It was like a chaos divine mountain was smashing down on Ji Yufei. Terrifying energy waves spread out, and the surrounding chaotic energy was dispersed. Bam! Ji Yufei extended his right hand and blocked the chaos giant fist that was smashing down. At this moment, he was still in the state of the Ascension Secret Technique. Right now, his battle prowess was so strong that he could definitely beat up a superior level Infinite Prime. The black-clothed youth was shocked that Ji Yufei blocked the chaos giant fist with a single hand. What kind of mystique is that? The black-clothed youth who had transformed into a chaos giant said angrily. In the eyes of the black-clothed youth, Ji Yufei's battle prowess had suddenly soared to the point where he could kill him with a single punch. This was practically a miracle. "Do you want to learn? I can teach you." Ji Yufei smiled. "What?" The black-clothed youth was stunned. In the instant that the black-clothed youth was distracted, Ji Yufei's palm that was pressing on the chaos giant fist shook violently. Cracks immediately appeared on the chaos giant's fist. The cracks started from the chaos giant's fist and spread to the arm. In the next moment, the entire right arm of the chaos giant collapsed. The black-clothed youth who had transformed into a chaos giant staggered backward. Ji Yufei's strength was simply too strong. It could be said to be absolute power. Although the black-clothed youth was also very strong, he could not compete with this power. "Acknowledge me as your master and be my disciple. I will teach you this mystique. How about it?" Ji Yufei said. "What did you say? You want to accept me as your disciple?" The black-clothed youth said in disbelief. This guy actually wanted to accept him as a disciple. This guy doesn't even know who he is talking to. "I am an expert who can summon the wind and summon the rain in the infinite realm. This guy actually wants me to acknowledge him as my master. It's your honor to be my disciple." Ji Yufei said disapprovingly. "Honor your head." The black-robed young man's shattered right arm was rapidly recovering. At the same time, He made a hand seal with his left hand, causing countless bolts of chaotic lightning to burst out from his left hand and crazily blast towards Ji Yufei. Every streak of chaotic lightning seemed to be able to shatter everything. However, those terrifying chaotic lightning bolts disappeared the moment they reached a foot away from Ji Yufei. The terrifying chaotic energy was directly devoured by Ji Yufei. This, the black-clothed youth who had transformed into a chaos giant, could not help but be shocked. There was actually such a powerful existence in the lower realm. What would happen if this guy entered the infinite realm? Although the infinite realm was a supreme realm, there would be grudges wherever there were people. There would be fights wherever there were people. There would be bloody underworld wherever there were people. In fact, the infinite realm was just an incomparably huge underworld. The infinite realm also had its own sphere of influence. Although the black-clothed youth's main body was powerful, he was not invincible in the infinite realm. There were still many powerful creatures that could contend against the black-clothed youth's main body. He did not want another guy that could contend against him. Alright then, the black-clothed youth who had transformed into a chaos giant suddenly made a decision. Stop. Seeing that Ji Yufei was about to make a move, the black-clothed youth who had transformed into a chaos giant suddenly said, "Why, are you admitting defeat?" Ji Yufei looked at the chaos giant in front of him with a smile that did not seem like a smile. "Actually, we can become friends." The black-clothed youth's voice rang in Ji Yufei's mind. "Is that so? Since we can become friends, then tell me who you are and where you come from." Ji Yufei really wanted to know who this guy was. Chapter 5586. The mysterious youth in black had no choice but to admit defeat. Ji Yufei's fighting power had suddenly increased to a level that he could not contend with. This shocked him. Actually, this mysterious youth also had a secret technique that could instantly increase his fighting power. However, he had to pay a huge price to use this secret technique. Therefore, he would not use this secret technique unless he had no other choice. However, the black-clothed young man found it hard to believe that Ji Yufei had also mastered such a secret skill. Furthermore, the secret skill that Ji Yufei had mastered was even more powerful. "Tell me, who are you? How did you come to the Void Realm?" Ji Yufei was really curious. No one knew better than him how strong the walls of the Everlasting Realm were. With his current level of cultivation, even if he risked his life, he would not be able to break the walls of the Everlasting Realm. Even if all the infinite primes in the Void Realm were to attack together, Ji Yufei felt that it would be a little difficult. At most, he only had a 30% chance of breaking through the barrier of the infinite realm. However, this youth in black could leave the Everlasting Realm and come to the Void Realm. This meant that he definitely knew how to enter and leave the Everlasting Realm freely. This would save them a lot of trouble. "Me. I am the Southern Extreme Emperor of the Everlasting Realm," the youth in black said proudly. "Extreme Emperor of the Everlasting Realm?" Ji Yufei was shocked. This guy's background was not simple. In the Everlasting Realm, this guy was an Extreme Emperor. He did not know what an Extreme Emperor represented, but he knew from the name that he was not someone to be trifled with. "He's the Extreme Emperor?" Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone was shocked by the youth's words. His original body also came from the Everlasting Realm, so he naturally knew what an Extreme Emperor represented. Extreme Emperor was a title. In the Everlasting Realm, this title represented invincibility. The clone of the Extreme Emperor. No wonder his clone is so strong. Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone's voice was trembling. He was not so excited that his voice was trembling. He was so scared that his voice was trembling. Extreme Emperor was an extremely ancient existence. He was one of the 5 giants of the Everlasting Realm. The 5 giants had existed since ancient times, and no one had ever been able to replace them. In other words, the entire limitless realm was under the rule of the 5 giants. Countless years had passed, and no one had been able to change this situation. If nothing unexpected happened, the current limitless realm should still be in the era of the 5 giants. They hadn't even entered the limitless realm, yet they had already offended one of the powerhouses. How could they continue to mingle in the limitless realm? "I don't care if you're the Extreme Emperor or whatever. I just want to know how you got into the Void Realm." Ji Fei said impatiently. If I tell you the way to enter and exit the limitless realm, will we become friends? As the black-clothed youngster spoke, his huge chaotic body began to shrink rapidly. Soon, a black-clothed youngster appeared in front of Ji Fei. At this moment, the black-robed youth finally recovered. Of course. In this world, there are only two types of people. One is a friend, and the other is an enemy. Ji Fei said indifferently. All right, I came to this world through the teleportation platform. The black-robed youth said with a sigh. He did not hide anything. Where's the teleportation formation? Ji Fei asked anxiously. Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones also perked up their ears. Above the 9 heavens. The black-robed youth did not hesitate. Actually, I know what you want to do. Unfortunately, I can't. The black-robed youth suddenly shook his head. Can't? Why not? Ji Fei couldn't help but frown. That's right, why not? Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones also wanted to know the reason. Because right now, one can only leave the limitless realm, but not enter. The black-robed youth said helplessly. What? Ji Fei and Yang Wu were dumbfounded. One could only leave the limitless realm, but not enter. What was going on? There's no helping it. This is reality. This is also the reason why I could only descend into this world with my clones. The black-robed youth shrugged helplessly. Why can one only leave and not enter? Ji Fei hurriedly asked. Because there's a problem with the limitless realm. The black-robed youth sighed. There's a problem with the limitless realm? Ji Fei, Yang Wu, and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones were all shocked. The limitless realm was the highest level world that they knew of. Even the limitless realm had a problem? How was this possible? How could there be a problem with such a high-level world? You guys want to enter, but we want to come out. The black-robed youth said gloomily. That's a world without death. Who doesn't want to enter? Ji Fei muttered to himself. There's no death there, but it's also relative. I can get rid of the undying life forms in the limitless realm. Moreover, at your level of cultivation, you're already undying and indestructible, so why would you need to enter the limitless realm? The black-robed youth said calmly. Ji Fei and the others were speechless. It wasn't that they didn't know this logic. However, the limitless realm was a truly boundless world. What's wrong with the limitless realm? Ji Fei asked. Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clones also wanted to know. I'm sorry, I don't know either. The black-robed youth shook his head. Even you don't know? How is that possible? You're one of the 5 heavyweights of the limitless realm. What do you not know? Sacred Master Void Sky's clone exclaimed. 5 heavyweights. Ji Fei was shocked when he heard this. The 5 heavyweights of the limitless realm were very influential existences. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone's words seemed to contain a lot of information. That's right, this fellow also came from the Void Realm. Ji Fei thought of the origins of Sacred Master Void Sky's clone. Of course, Sacred Master Void Sky and Sacred Master Primal Chaos didn't leave the limitless realm willingly. They were just unlucky fellows. The Limitless Snow Demon, Limitless Sword Master, and Limitless Demon Master were the same. They didn't want to leave the limitless realm. This was because the limitless realm was their stage, and the Void Realm was simply too small. It was so small that they couldn't even fight properly. Although the laws of heaven and earth in the Void Realm were very strong, if Sacred Master Void Sky and the others were to fight here, the damage they would cause would directly affect the entire Void Realm. They were all serpents that wanted to return to the limitless realm even in their dreams. What's so strange about that? I'm not omnipotent. The black-robed youth said disapprovingly. That's true. If you were omnipotent, you wouldn't have just sent a clone into the Void Realm, right? Ji Fei sighed. Could it be that this guy called No Beginning was trying to trick him? Chapter 5587. The youth in black was the clone of the Limitless Emperor, one of the 5 giants of the limitless realm. This shocked Ji Fei and the others. Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone came from the limitless realm and naturally knew a lot about the limitless realm. The Limitless Emperor was one of the old antiques of the limitless realm. The 5 giants of the limitless realm had always been in charge of the 5 directions. No one had ever challenged their position. It could be said that the 5 giants of the limitless realm were undefeatable existences in the limitless realm. The consequences of offending the limitless emperor were very serious. However, Ji Yufei had never been afraid of anyone. So what if it was the limitless emperor? So what if it was the 5 giants of the limitless realm? He hadn't even entered the limitless realm yet. Would the limitless emperor's real body come from the limitless realm to get even with him? Friend or foe, it all depends on you. Limitless Extreme Emperor's avatar looked at Ji Yufei and said calmly, "That's right. You want to stall me and find a chance to kill me, right?" Ji Yufei suddenly stared at the limitless Extreme Monarch's clone with a cold gaze. "You have quite a wild imagination." The youth in black smiled. Ji Yufei smiled. "It's not that I have a wild imagination, it's the truth. You are the limitless emperor and have an unparalleled status in the limitless realm. If your clone loses to me, what will you do?" Yang Wu's and Sacred Lord Void Sky's expressions became solemn after hearing Ji Yufei's words. Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone knew very well what kind of person the limitless emperor was. He was one of the strongest people in the limitless realm. Anyone who offended him would not have a good ending. At this moment, the youth's smile froze on his face. "What are you trying to say?" The limitless emperor's clone stared at Ji Yufei and asked in a deep voice. "What am I trying to say? Why don't you guess?" After saying that, Ji Yufei disappeared from where he stood. "What?" The limitless emperor's clone was shocked. He couldn't sense Ji Yufei's presence at all. Ji Yufei just disappeared right in front of his eyes. How is this possible? The beginning Extreme Emperor's clone was extremely shocked. He realized that he had severely underestimated this little fella called Ji Yufei. How could someone from the lower realm be this powerful? The beginning Extreme Emperor seriously suspected that Ji Yufei was an ancient being from the limitless realm who had come to the lower realm to hide. Only those existences could possess such an incredible mystique. Boom! A fist appeared out of nowhere and landed on the back of the Ultimate Emperor's clone. There was no sign of this fist appearing at all. Even Limitless Emperor's clone couldn't sense that Ji Yufei would suddenly attack him from behind. Ascending to the heavens and breaking extremity, Ji Yufei's battle prowess had already surpassed his limits. His instantaneous explosive power was absolutely terrifying to an unimaginable level. Before the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor could react, his entire body exploded and turned into dust. He was blown up by Ji Yufei's punch again. Yang Wu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnations were stunned when they saw this. The battle prowess that Ji Yufei displayed was too terrifying. They finally realized how powerful Ji Yufei was when he used his full strength. Roar! A crazy roar sounded. The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor used the chaotic energy to reform his chaotic body again. A chaotic giant appeared in the chaos. The chaos giant breathed in and out chaotic aura. As it opened and closed its eyes, streaks of chaotic lightning shot out from its pupils. It was an extremely terrifying sight. Ji Yufei's punch was still unable to kill the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor. "Ridiculous, I gave you face but you don't want it. If my real body was here, I would be able to kill you with one finger." The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor roared. "Really? Then tell your real body to come from the limitless realm. I will wait for him here. Ji Yufei's immortal will appear in the sky." What a coward! The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor was furious. He still couldn't sense Ji Yufei's presence. He couldn't lock onto Ji Yufei's position. Bam! Another thud was heard. Then, the chaotic giant was blown up by Ji Yufei's punch again. It was just one punch. No matter what kind of body the clone of the beginning Extreme the Arch formed, it would not be able to withstand Ji Yufei's powerful punch. Therefore, the clone of the beginning Extreme the Arch could only be beaten up. Then, Ji Yufei turned on the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor. The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor was blown up again and again by the elusive Ji Yufei. Time and time again, the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor wanted to die. Even though it was just an incarnation, incarnations still had their own dignity. The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor represented the beginning Extreme Emperor. An existence like the beginning Extreme Emperor couldn't do everything himself. Therefore, the clone represented the real body of the beginning Extreme Emperor and killed anyone who didn't agree with it. This incarnation of the beginning Extreme the Arch was an unparalleled existence in the beginning Extreme Theater's territory. Wherever it went, billions of creatures trembled in fear. He was the supreme ruler that controlled the life and death of countless living beings. But now, he was being beaten up by a bug from the lower realm. This made the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor extremely angry. However, no matter how furious and frenzied this fellow was, he was unable to do anything to Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei continued to throw out a punch. That punch directly destroyed this fellow's body that had just been reassembled. How can this guy still reform? Even Yang Wu couldn't believe her eyes. This incarnation of the limitless Extreme Emperor was a little too strong. His aura is starting to weaken. Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone stared at the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor and said solemnly, "Oh, it's true." Yang Wu also sensed that the clone's aura was weakening. However, the clone's aura was very weak, so she didn't notice it before. Now that Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone mentioned it, she immediately realized what was happening. This meant that the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor wasn't truly unkillable. Ji Yufei's attack wasn't completely useless. Ji Yufei's attack had still weakened the clone's strength. Ji Yufei was really patient. In order to kill the clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor, he continuously punched out. In the end, he couldn't even remember how many punches he had thrown out. The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor also didn't know how many times Ji Yufei had destroyed it. You chaos! The clone of the beginning Extreme Emperor couldn't take it anymore and turned to escape. However, how could Ji Yufei let him go? If he let this guy escape, there would be no end to his troubles. Moreover, could this guy escape just because he wanted to? Ji Yufei had the fastest movement technique in the world. Bam! The beginning Extreme Emperor's clone had only managed to escape for a few miles before Ji Yufei caught up to him. Ji Yufei punched him again and blew him up. Chapter 5588. In the Void Realm, the huge black hole didn't disappear for a long time. This made all the powerful living beings in the Void Realm and South Barbarian anxious. The black hole in the sky was formed by the shattering of the void. Behind the black hole was chaos. In other words, the Void Realm couldn't repair the black hole in the sky. Nobody knew if the black hole would continue to exist, if it would grow bigger, or if it would cause serious consequences. Inside the black hole, in the chaos, Ji Yufei was using the secret technique of ascension and the limit breaker technique to beat up the clone of one of the 5 overlords of the Infinity Realm. With the help of Ji Yufei's secret technique of ascension and the limit breaker technique, the clone of one of the 5 overlords of the Infinity Realm couldn't even fight back against Ji Yufei's fist. Bang! The clone of the Infinity Emperor, who wanted to escape, was smashed by Ji Yufei's fist again. This time, he turned into countless rays of divine light that shot out in all directions. "Haha, you dare to play this trick in front of me?" Ji Yufei laughed. In the next moment, a purple-gold divine light appeared between his eyebrows. It was as if a divine eye had appeared between his eyebrows. A powerful wave of spiritual energy spread from between Ji Yufei's eyebrows. This is, when Yang Wu and Holy Master Void Sky's clones saw this scene from afar, their hearts jolted. Was Ji Yufei using another divine ability that they had never seen before? The void shook. The divine light between Ji Yufei's eyebrows suddenly exploded with a dazzling divine light. Countless divine lights shot out from between his eyebrows and pierced through the divine light of the Infinity Emperor's clone. Primordial Spirit Taoization Sword, / Ji Yufei roared furiously. Countless sword lights formed by the power of his spirit caught up to the divine light formed by the Primordial Emperor's avatar. Moreover, every sword light accurately struck the divine light formed by the avatar. The clone of the Infinity Emperor couldn't escape at all. This was because the difference in their combat power was too great. Don't go too far. The beginning Extreme Monarch's incarnation once again reformed itself within the primordial chaos. However, the aura of the beginning Extreme Emperor's clone was much weaker this time. This, Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's avatars were shocked when they sensed the changes in Emperor Limitless avatar. The secret technique that Ji Yufei used just now had heavily injured this guy. TSK, I am indeed bullying you. What can you do to me? Ji Yufei didn't care at all. At this time, the divine light on Ji Yufei's forehead lit up again. You forced me to do this. The Limitless Emperor's clone had a ferocious look on his face. He glared at Ji Yufei and his yuan qi started to surge. The eyes of the black-robed ultimate monarch turned blood-red. Two terrifying rays of blood-red light shot out of his eyes. Ji Yufei's expression turned solemn when he sensed the change in this guy. It was obvious that this guy was desperate and was finally going to use some kind of secret technique. Take advantage of the fact that his power hasn't reached its peak. Hurry up and attack. Sacred Master Void Sky's clone shouted at Ji Yufei anxiously. That's right. What are you waiting for? Yang Wu also said. She and Ji Yufei shared a life and death relationship. If Ji Yufei was killed by this Limitless Emperor's clone, she would die with him. Haha, what are you afraid of? I want to step on this guy when he's at his strongest. Ji Yufei raised his head and laughed, but he did not make a move. Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's clone were speechless. The best time to attack was when the Limitless Emperor's clone's power was still increasing. However, Ji Yufei didn't plan on doing that. Ji Yufei was going to wait until the Limitless Emperor's clone's power reached its peak before attacking. He had this kind of confidence. Boom. Very soon, a muffled sound was heard from the primordial Emperor's clone. The chaotic energy around him rapidly gathered towards him and was completely absorbed by him, turning into his power. Streams of chaotic energy circled around his body and a shocking pressure spread from his body. You can control chaotic energy directly? Ji Yufei was surprised. If he could control chaotic energy in the chaos, then his opponent's power would be limitless here. I also have a secret technique that can increase one's combat strength in a short period of time. The Limitless Emperor's clone said coldly. At this moment, the primordial Extreme Emperor's clone's yuan qi undulations were much stronger than ever before. The Limitless Emperor's clone finally unleashed his full power without holding anything back. Is that so? Let's see whose fist is harder. Ji Yufei didn't waste any time. In the next moment, he disappeared into the void again. It's this move again. The Limitless Emperor's clone was sweating profusely. His combat strength had reached its peak, but he still couldn't sense Ji Yufei's presence. This really scared him. One had to know that his spiritual force had become very strong, but even so, it was still useless. Therefore, even if he used his secretary and unleashed all his potential, he still couldn't escape from being tortured by Ji Yufei. Then, without any suspense, the Limitless Emperor's clone was destroyed by Ji Yufei with one punch. Then, he was tortured again and again. The Limitless Emperor's clone started to doubt his life. Ji Yufei, you are so evil. Yang Wu shook her head helplessly. Sacred Leader Shu Tian's clone, on the other hand, was shocked by this. He came from the Limitless Realm and naturally knew how powerful and terrifying the Limitless Emperor was. He was one of the 5 giants of the Limitless Realm. The territories of the 5 giants of the Limitless Realm had never changed over the years. No one had ever been able to challenge their position. Even though it was only a clone of the Limitless Emperor this time, even Sacred Leader Shu Tian's clone was like an ant in front of the Limitless Emperor. Plus, if the Limitless Emperor's clone hadn't met Ji Yufei, he would have been undefeatable in the Void Realm. Unfortunately, he had met Ji Yufei. I'm going to die with you. The Limitless Emperor's clone was really at his wit's end this time. After he reformed his clone, he pounced towards Ji Yufei and his entire body started to burn. He was self-destructing and he didn't mind dragging Ji Yufei down with him. I'm going to faint. Seeing this, Yang Wu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's clones immediately retreated as far as they could. If the Limitless Emperor's clone self-destructed, it would be extremely terrifying. If they were too close, they would be affected. Why? Chapter 5589. Amidst the chaos, the clone of the Limitless Great Emperor wanted to self-destruct along with Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei naturally wouldn't go crazy with him. Swoosh. Ji Fei's figure disappeared into the void, leaving no trace behind. You can't escape this time. The beginning Extreme Emperor's clone roared in anger. In the next moment, his entire body exploded. A terrifying destructive force spread out and engulfed the area for an unknown distance. Even with Ji Fei's speed, it was impossible for him to escape from this sudden explosion. Sure enough, Ji Fei's figure was jolted out of the void. Haha, you idiot. Ji Fei laughed. At this moment, a powerful devouring force exploded from his body and devoured the destructive force from the clone of the limitless Great Emperor. Even sacred leader Shu Tian couldn't kill Ji Fei, let alone the clone of the limitless Great Emperor. Moreover, Ji Fei's martial body was so powerful that the clone of the limitless Great Emperor couldn't understand it. This guy is really stupid. Yang Wu shook her head helplessly. Ji Fei was still as bad as ever. The clone of the limitless Great Emperor was killed by Ji Fei. How could this be? The clone of the limitless Great Emperor went crazy. Was this guy pretending to be weak all along? However, it was too late. He couldn't turn back now. Self-destruction was the ultimate technique. It wasn't something that could be stopped easily. Haha, thank you. I'll take this gift. If I have the chance to enter the limitless realm, I'll play with your real body and thank you in person. Ji Fei laughed. You bastard. Even if the clone of the limitless Great Emperor didn't die, he would be angered to death. Come here. At this moment, Ji Fei extended his right hand and sucked the clone of the limitless Great Emperor over and devoured it. In the next moment, countless pieces of information appeared in Ji Fei's mind. Naturally, there was a lot of information regarding the unbounded realm. He also knew the secrets of the limitless Emperor. This time, the incarnation of the Supreme the Arch of Beginning had really given Ji Fei a huge gift. The limitless realm is only SOSO. Ji Fei couldn't help but sigh after reading the memories of the Infinity Emperor's incarnation. The limitless realm was the highest realm. The living beings here were immortal. That's right, the living beings that were born here had an endless lifespan. There was no such thing as dying of old age here. This was an immortal world. However, this was only relative. There were also conflicts and grudges in the limitless realm. There were also people who fought over various treasures. Then, the weaker ones would be beaten to death by the stronger ones. This was a very real problem. No one could always hide and not come out, never come into contact with others, and no one could always live alone. Moreover, the 5 giants of the limitless realm were constantly fighting with each other. The 5 factions were constantly clashing with each other, and the small fights between the 5 giants had never stopped. If a large-scale war broke out between the 5 great forces, more people would die. Most importantly, it wasn't easy for the living beings in the limitless realm to reproduce. However, the limitless realm was the stage for the infinite primes. This was also why Sacred Lord Shu Tian and the others wanted to return to the limitless realm so much. The limitless realm was the stage where they could perform to their heart's content. I didn't think that the infinite primes would be divided into another realm. If I enter the limitless realm, I'll probably only be at the peak of the extreme human realm. Ji Fei was speechless. So the infinite primes could be divided into the extreme human realm, extreme earth realm, extreme heaven realm, extreme holy realm, extreme emperor realm, and ultimate realm. Living beings in the limitless realm could only enter and exit the limitless realm when they cultivated to the extreme heaven realm. However, over the years, it was extremely rare to find a living being that could cultivate to the extreme heavenly stage, and the extreme heavenly stage only existed in legends. The ultimate realm was a legend in the limitless realm. After reading the memories of the limitless Emperor's incarnation, Ji Fei knew that he wasn't lying. The limitless realm could only be entered and not exited. Unless the limitless Emperor's original body acted, no one could enter and exit the limitless realm freely. Ji Fei's plan to enter the limitless realm through the teleportation array in the 9 heavens fell through. There was no other way. It seemed like he had to use the simplest method to enter the limitless realm. However, no one knew if he would succeed. However, there seems to be a way to enter the limitless realm. Ji Fei suddenly found a way to enter the limitless realm through the memories of the limitless Emperor's incarnation. I can give it a try. Ji Yufei's eyes lit up as he devoured the destructive energy around him. He sat cross-legged in the air and focused on devouring the unimaginably powerful energy that was released by the limitless Emperor's incarnation's self-destruction. This energy was stronger and purer than he had imagined. After devouring for several hours, he had only devoured less than 1/10 of it. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to completely devour and refine this energy in a short period of time. At this moment, the eyes of Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation were extremely red. However, he didn't dare to have any ideas about this energy. He didn't want to be tortured by Ji Yufei again. Yang Wu wasn't interested in this energy at all. She and Ji Yufei shared a life-and-death relationship. If one of them died, the other would die with them. The stronger Ji Yufei became, the better it was for her. There was no such thing as time in the primordial chaos. Yang Wu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation could only estimate the time. After an unknown period of time, the unimaginably powerful energy that was released by the limitless Emperor's incarnation was finally completely devoured by Ji Yufei. What a pity! Ji Yufei, who was sitting cross-legged in the air, suddenly opened his eyes. Although he had devoured such a powerful energy, his cultivation was still at the extreme mortal realm. Apart from the limitless realm, no other world could give birth to an existence that was above the extreme mortal realm. Just when Yang Wu and Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation thought that Ji Yufei was going to return, Ji Yufei activated the primal chaos energy. Countless strands of primal chaos energy frantically gathered towards him. A chaotic figure appeared in the air in front of Ji Yufei. What is he doing? Sacred Lord Void Sky's incarnation exclaimed. He could sense the powerful aura from the chaotic figure in front of Ji Yufei. What else can he be doing? He's refining an incarnation, Yang Wu said casually. Refining an incarnation? Chapter 5590. Ji Yufei sat cross-legged in the middle of the chaos and used the power of chaos to cultivate his clone. Endless chaotic qi gathered from all directions and condensed in front of him. A mass of chaotic divine light immediately appeared. Within the chaotic divine light, a figure was faintly discernible. Yang Wu and Sacred Lord Void Sky's clone watched from the side. Ji Yufei's incarnation cultivation mystique was actually a mystique that he had obtained from the incarnation of the beginning extreme the Arch. Using chaotic energy to condense an incarnation, this mystique was quite impressive. This was because the clone that was created with this technique was the carnate chaotic daoist body. The clone that Ji Yufei had killed was the carnate chaotic daoist body. He had spent a lot of effort to cultivate this clone. However, the limitless Emperor had never expected that his clone would be killed by a little fellow from the lower domain. In the limitless Emperor's eyes, his clone of the carnate chaotic daoist body was invincible in the lower domain. Even the Emperor and Mo Ying were no match for this clone. The Emperor and Mo Ying were the true rulers of the Void Realm. The Void Sky Sacred Master's incarnation and the Limitless Demon Masters group were just kids in the eyes of the Emperor and Mo Ying. Now that the Limitless Emperor's clone had been killed by Ji Yufei and he knew everything about the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, Ji Yufei was the true ruler of the Void Realm. Actually, Ji Yufei was a little surprised after reading the memories of the Limitless Emperor's clone. He didn't expect the Limitless Emperor to have been planning to enter the Void Realm for so many years. He also didn't expect such a powerful force to be hidden in the Void Realm. What was more terrifying was that this force had always been hidden in the Void Realm. It was impossible to guard against it and it controlled the entire Void Realm from the shadows. Even the clone of Sacred Lord Void Sky, the Limitless Demon Lord, and the others had been used by them without knowing it. Just as Ji Yufei was cultivating his clone, the black hole in the sky above Nanman started to shrink. The power of the Void Realm was repairing the black hole. I can't sense Master's aura anymore. At the summit of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion in the southern barbaric Imperial City, the Emperor spoke in terror. What's going on? Mo Ying was also inexplicably shocked. She also couldn't sense her Master's aura. This was definitely not a good thing for them. Yes, Ji Yufei's aura has also disappeared. Mo Ying suddenly said. Who won this battle? The Emperor and Mo Ying were very anxious because the battle between Ji Yufei and their master was too important. The outcome of this battle would directly determine the fate of the entire Void Realm. The infinite primes waiting in the imperial palace of the southern barbaric capital were all shocked as well. They were extremely anxious, as they wanted to know the outcome of the battle very much. However, the black hole above southern wilderness was gradually shrinking, and there was no longer any aura coming out of the black hole. Did the two of them perish together? Someone said. However, only the limitless demon lord knew that not only did Gu Fei not die, but he also benefited from the disaster. He killed the limitless demon lord's clone and devoured the power of the clone. Because Gu Fei planted a forbidden technique on the limitless demon lord and the others. Once Gu Fei died, the limitless demon lord and the others would be buried with him. The Holy Master of Chaotic Heaven, the limitless sword lord, the limitless demon lord, the limitless fire spirit, the limitless snow demon, and the ancestor of all demons. These infinite primes were still waiting for Gu Fei obediently. Go and capture those two guys from the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. Just as the infinite primes in the Imperial Palace didn't know what to do, Gu Fei's voice suddenly rang in their minds. Yes, Master. The Holy Master of Chaotic Heaven and the others immediately accepted the order. The next moment, the Holy Master of Chaotic Heaven and the others disappeared from the Imperial Palace. At this time, the southern barbarian imperial city was sunny. A divine sun hung in the sky, sprinkling down brilliant sunlight. The Imperial Gathering Pavilion was located on the eastern street of the southern barbarian imperial city. This was the most prosperous area in the entire southern barbarian imperial city. Countless cultivators visited here every day. However, soon, the entire eastern street gradually became empty. What's going on? The Emperor and Mo Ying, who were at the top of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, immediately sensed the situation around the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. They immediately knew that something was going to happen. Swoosh! Several figures descended from the sky and landed on the roofs around the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. These figures all exuded an obscure but extremely powerful aura. Why did these guys suddenly surround the Imperial Gathering Pavilion? The Emperor and Mo Ying were inexplicably shocked. The Imperial Gathering Pavilion was in chaos. The Imperial Gathering Pavilion Master and the others were incomparably terrified. The Imperial Gathering Pavilion only had the Emperor and Mo Ying, the two giants. The Imperial Gathering Pavilion Master and the others were just slaves under their command. If they died, they died. The Imperial Gathering Pavilion Master and the others naturally didn't want to die. However, their lives weren't in their own hands. Swoosh! A figure rushed into the sky and directly rushed to the top of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. This person was the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven. Sure enough, there are two scoundrels hiding here. The Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven directly locked onto the Emperor and Mo Ying. You said I'm a scoundrel? The Emperor was instantly enraged when he heard this. TSK, you don't dare to appear openly and hide. If you aren't a scoundrel, then what are you? The Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven sneered. You're courting death. The Emperor attacked angrily. He pointed a finger and a divine light directly pierced towards the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven. The speed was extremely fast. A powerful aura of the infinite realm erupted from his body and spread out with the southern barbarian imperial city as the center. Hundreds of millions of creatures were terrified. The Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven also pointed a finger. Bang! The two finger lights instantly collided with each other and exploded with a muffled sound. The void between the two of them was shaking. Spatial ripples spread out from the void between the two of them. You dare to cause trouble for me? Who gave you the courage? The Emperor made his move, and in the next moment, he disappeared into the void. What? The Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this scene. Bang! The Emperor suddenly appeared behind the Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven and punched him in the back. The Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven was directly sent flying by the Emperor's punch. You despicable and shameless guy. The Divine Lord of Chaotic Heaven only felt that the blood in his body was boiling. A mouthful of blood had already rushed to his throat, but he forcefully swallowed it back down. He was inexplicably shocked. This guy was actually so powerful that he injured him in one move. An ant is an ant. How can you compete with the bright moon in the sky? The emperor sneered. The divine lord of chaotic heaven was furious. If you are the bright moon in the sky, then what is my master? Chapter 5591. The Emperor Gathering Pavilion, a superforce hidden in the Void Realm, was finally exposed to the world. At this time, the major forces of southern China realized that there was such a powerful and terrifying force hidden under their noses. The Emperor Gathering Pavilion gave people the impression that it was just a restaurant. At best, it was a high-class restaurant, a restaurant that people would be embarrassed to enter without a few top-grade immortal crystals in their pockets. However, no one would have thought that there were two infinite primes behind the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. An infinite prime. In the Void Realm, an infinite prime was an invincible existence. Even the sorcerer tribe of southern China did not have any infinite primes. The strongest among the sorcerer tribe, the Shaman Emperor, was only at the Transcendent Emperor realm. Moreover, it was unknown whether the Shaman Emperor had broken through to the Transcendent Emperor realm. For thousands of years, the Shaman Emperor had been in seclusion. For thousands of years, no one knew where the Shaman Emperor was, and the Shaman Emperor had never appeared. There were even rumors that the Shaman Emperor of the Sorcerer tribe had already gone mad and died. There were two infinite primes behind the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. The power of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was many times stronger than that of the Sorcerer tribe. However, it was difficult to understand why such a powerful force was so low-key. At this time, several powerful figures suddenly appeared in the void around the Emperor Gathering Pavilion and directly sealed the entire Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Everyone in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was terrified to the extreme. What happened? I can't sense the aura outside. Everyone in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, including their pavilion master, Goddess Yangling, the undying demon child and other elders, could not escape in time. In fact, it had happened so suddenly that they could not escape even if they wanted to. It should be known that the people who attacked were all infinite primes. Even the Emperor and Mo Ying could not escape, let alone the pavilion master and the others. This is bad. The pavilion master seemed to have guessed what had happened. This was not good for them. It seemed that they were going to be in big trouble. At this time, at the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, a life-and-death duel was taking place in the arena. On the huge dueling platform, two figures were moving at high speed. Powerful energy fluctuations surged out from the dueling platform, and sinister cracks appeared on the entire dueling platform. The dueling platform looked as if it could collapse at any time. Hun Tian, can you do it or not? If you can't, let someone else do it. In the void outside the dueling platform, a figure shrouded in flames shouted. What did you say? How dare you say I can't? Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven was enraged when he heard this. Bam! There was a muffled sound as the Emperor's fist landed on Holy Lord of Chaotic Heaven's left shoulder again. His entire body was sent flying, crashing into the light barrier around the arena before bouncing back and falling to the ground. Divine Lord Chaotic Heaven knelt on one knee as blood dripped from the corner of his mouth onto the ground. Holy Master Chaotic Heaven's entire left arm drooped down powerlessly. His bones were shattered, and a fist imprint had sunk into his body. Even though the Emperor was only in the mid-level of the Peerless Realm, he was still from the Peerless Realm. He was a follower of the Peerless Emperor, one of the 5 great leaders of the Peerless Realm. His battle power was even stronger than Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven's. Although the Chaotic Heaven Sacred Leader was also from the Unbounded Realm, his faction was nothing compared to the Unbounded Extreme the Arch. In the Unbounded Realm, inheritance was extremely important. Even though the Emperor wasn't the Unbounded Extreme Theacher's disciple, he had received pointers from the Unbounded Extreme the Arch. In this aspect alone, Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven couldn't compare to the Emperor. Damn it! Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven slowly stood up from the ground and glared at the Emperor. You guys don't know who you're up against. The Emperor sneered disdainfully. Phut, do you think you're so strong? Don't joke around. Your master is finished. Are you guys stronger than your master? Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven said coldly. What did you say? When the Emperor heard this, he couldn't help but be shocked. His master had actually lost the battle against Ji Yufei? How was that possible? Mo Ying was shocked. In their eyes, Their master was an invincible existence. I said you're finished. Surrender obediently and you can live. Otherwise, you'll have to take your lunchboxes. Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven said proudly. The Emperor was still high and mighty, looking down on the common people. This made Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven very unhappy. Divine Master Chaotic Heaven and the others had already received information about Jiu Fei and knew the truth about the Emperor gathering pavilion. They also knew about the existence of Emperor and Mo Ying. The Emperor and Mo Ying's masters had been killed by Jiu Fei. If Jiu Fei were to take action, they wouldn't be his match at all. You actually want us to surrender? The Emperor was shocked and angry. He knew very well that even their master wasn't a match for Jiu Fei. If they wanted to live, they really had to surrender to Jiu Fei. He was an infinite prime after all and had his pride. If he surrendered to these guys, where would he put his face? What? Do you really want to die? Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven said disdainfully. All right, I surrender. You should have said so earlier. The Emperor, who was just filled with righteous indignation, suddenly said something that made everyone's jaws drop to the ground. Your Majesty, what are you trying to do? Surrender and admit that you're number one. Mo Ying sneered outside the dueling ring. Since you're so capable, don't surrender. Don't make me look down on you. The Emperor said to Mo Ying in a serious manner. At this time, Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven was a little dumbfounded when he saw the Emperor admit defeat. At this time, Jiu Fei's subordinates directly stared at Mo Ying. Since the Emperor had already admitted defeat, no one was afraid that he would cause trouble. If so many people couldn't deal with this guy, then they would really be trash. Now, there was only Mo Ying left. Mo Ying was mysterious. The infinite primes in the Void Realm never knew that there was such a person in the Void Realm. Only today did the infinite primes know of Mo Ying's existence. Mo Ying's cultivation was even higher than the Emperor's. She was the same as Jiu Fei. She also had the cultivation of an infinite prime. At this time, the infinite fire spirit, the infinite demon master, the infinite sword master, the infinite snow monster, and the infinite monster ancestor appeared around Mo Ying at the same time. The 5 infinite primes locked onto Mo Ying at the same time. Mo Ying's entire body was covered in a black robe. Even her eyes couldn't be seen. No one knew what Mo Ying's expression was. Mo Ying didn't release any powerful pressure. She just stood in the void quietly. Even though she was surrounded by the 5 infinite primes, she seemed to be calm as usual. Now it's my turn to watch the show. Chapter 5592. The Emperor admitted defeat and surrendered. If he didn't surrender, he would have to fight to the death with Jiu Fei. However, he would be the unlucky one in the end. He wasn't a match for Jiu Fei. Therefore, even if the Emperor could defeat Sacred Master Chaotic Heaven, he wouldn't do anything. Defeating Sacred Master Chaotic Heaven was nothing. He was still not strong enough in front of Jiu Fei. Just a bunch of trash. Mo Ying said indifferently. Her tone was full of disdain. She had the cultivation of the unbounded realm. In the unbounded realm, she was at the Great Perfection realm. In the Void realm, an existence at the Great Perfection realm was truly invincible. Even the Emperor wasn't a match for Mo Ying. This was also why Mo Ying had never been discovered by Sacred Lord Void Sky and Sacred Lord Chaotic Heaven. It was because her cultivation was higher than Sacred Lord Void Sky and Sacred Lord Chaotic Heavens. If she wanted to hide, how could Sacred Master Void Sky and Sacred Master Chaotic Heaven sense her presence? What did you say? The hot-tempered, unbounded Demon Lord was enraged. How dare she call us trash? TSK, you're not deaf. Didn't you hear what I said? Mo Ying said coldly. What are you waiting for? Let's attack together. The unbounded Demon Lord said to the crowd. However, the unbounded Fire Spirit, the unbounded Sword Master, the ancestor of all demons, and the unbounded Snow Goblin didn't make a move because they felt an extremely dangerous aura from Mo Ying. The other party was an existence at the Great Perfection realm. Her cultivation was so strong that they couldn't catch up. Whoever made a move first would be unlucky. Therefore, they didn't make a move. Damn it. What's there to be afraid of? The limitless Demon Lord's viciousness came. He roared in anger and punched towards Mo Ying. Rumble. The void trembled as a huge demonic fist appeared in the void. It was like a demonic mountain as it rushed towards Mo Ying to obliterate her. In the face of the limitless demon master's furious attack, Mo Ying only stretched out her right hand and extended her index finger. She actually used her index finger to gently tap the demonic fist that was about to strike. The demonic fist, which was as huge as a mountain, suddenly stopped. The world fell silent in an instant. All the infinite primes who saw this were utterly shocked. This mysterious guy had actually used a single finger to block the limitless demon lord's furious strike. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would have believed it? I called you trash, and you're still angry? Sigh. Mo Ying sighed. Her voice was very pleasant to hear, but in the limitless demon lord's ears, it made him tremble with fear. The limitless demon lord would never have thought that the other party would actually be this strong. Just as the limitless demon lord was about to retreat, the huge demonic fist that he had condensed suddenly exploded. A figure flashed through the demonic chi and appeared in front of the limitless demon lord. Before the limitless demon lord could finish his thought, he was punched in the face. This punch caused limitless demon master to see stars dancing in front of his eyes, and he staggered backwards. F***ck, this is a slap in the face. Seeing this, the limitless fire spirit immediately retreated. The limitless sword master and the 1,000 demons ancestor were also shocked. The limitless snow demon immediately took out the ice soul divine pearl, an infinite grade treasure, to protect himself. The ice soul divine pearl floated above the limitless snow demon's head. A terrifying power of ice descended from the ice soul divine pearl, enveloping the limitless snow demon. The moment the ice soul divine pearl appeared, the space around the limitless snow demon seemed to freeze. The vast power of ice emanating from the ice soul divine bead was simply too terrifying. This is... Mo Ying's eyes lit up when she saw the divine pearl floating above the limitless snow demon's head. She did not expect there to be such a treasure in the void realm. Infinite grade treasures were actually very common in the limitless realm, but they were extremely rare in other worlds. Moreover, other than the limitless realm, other worlds could not nurture infinite grade treasures. This was because other worlds did not have the conditions to nurture infinite grade treasures. At this moment, Mo Ying extended her right hand and directly grabbed the divine pearl floating above the limitless snow demon's head. She wanted to take the divine pearl from the limitless snow demon's hands. The limitless snow demon sneered. In the next moment, a hazy white air immediately spread from her body. Her figure disappeared into the white air. Mo Ying's right hand had just reached into the white mist when she immediately pulled it back. She directly retreated hundreds of meters away. Then, she lowered her head and saw that her right arm was covered in a layer of frost. A wave of cold air had invaded her body. Mo Ying could not help but frown. The limitless treasure of the way was quite powerful. She shook her right arm, and the layer of frost covering her arm was immediately shattered. The cold air that had invaded her arm was also forced out. At this moment, the other infinite primes had no choice but to take action. If they were to be defeated by this guy one by one, they would all be finished. Buzz! A sword hum shook the heavens. The limitless sword master had taken action. An extremely resplendent beam of light directly rushed out of the limitless sword master's body and directly shot towards Mo Ying. It was extremely fast. Mo Ying's figure moved quickly in the void, actually dodging the beam of light. Her movement technique was even faster than the limitless sword master's beam of light. Kill. The ancestor of all monsters took action. Immediately, demonic aura surged into the sky and countless figures appeared in the void. These figures charged towards Mo Ying from all directions. Mo Ying was not in a hurry to take action. Even when faced with the overwhelming attacks, she still walked in the void like she was taking a stroll in the park. However, to everyone's surprise, Mo Ying actually dodged all the attacks with great precision and ingenuity. How is this possible? Boom! At this moment, a ball of divine fire exploded in the void. The entire top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was instantly enveloped by the divine fire. Countless inscriptions lit up and blocked the divine fire that had exploded. With that, Mo Ying had nowhere to hide. She was directly engulfed by the sea of fire. The limitless fire spirit took action. However, the limitless fire spirit's limitless divine fire could not do anything to Mo Ying. Mo Ying moved quickly in the sea of fire, fighting against the limitless sword master, the ancestor of all monsters, the snow monster, and the limitless demon lord. Mo Ying, you're really something. The emperor, who was watching from the side, could not help but give a thumbs up to Mo Ying, who was fighting against the limitless demon lord and the others in the sea of fire. The battle strength that Mo Ying displayed was really powerful. This was also the source of Mo Ying's confidence. The 5 infinite primes fought against Mo Ying together, but they were actually evenly matched. Just as Mo Ying displayed her might, another 2 figures descended from the sky and landed on the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Haha, you're dead. Chapter 5593. A great battle between infinite primes broke out at the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Fortunately, the limitless demon lord and the others had worked together to seal the entire Emperor Gathering Pavilion beforehand. Otherwise, if these infinite primes fought at the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, the entire southern Man Imperial City would suffer. The destructive power of the supreme existence of the infinite primes was too astonishing. Any one of the limitless demon lord and the others could easily erase the southern Man Imperial City from this world. However, even with that being the case, the powerful presence that erupted from the infinite prime still managed to pass through the seal and reach the outside world. Although it was only a sliver of the infinite prime's presence that reached the outside world, it was enough to make countless powerful beings in the Imperial City utterly terrified. It's the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. What happened in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion? The eyes of all the powerhouses in the city were attracted by the powerful aura coming from the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. There was no way around it, the aura coming from the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was too powerful. All the powerhouses in the city were extremely curious. However, compared to curiosity, it seemed that escaping was more important. At this time, the southern Man Imperial City began to fall into chaos when the powerful aura that made people's souls tremble came out from the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Countless people rushed towards the 4 city gates because everyone felt that something big was going to happen. And it was something bad. If they didn't escape from the southern Man Imperial City now, they would probably have to live and die with the southern Man Imperial City. When the army of demons invaded, countless people rushed into the southern Man Imperial City, and now, the people in the city were rushing to escape from the southern Man Imperial City. For a time, the 4 city gates of the southern Man Imperial City were filled with people fleeing. The powerhouses in the city directly soared into the sky, wanting to escape through the air, but they all hit the defensive barrier of the southern Man Imperial City. The defensive barrier formed by the power of the southern Man Imperial City's defensive formation was transparent. People with insufficient cultivation couldn't sense the existence of the defensive barrier at all. Therefore, those who hit the defensive barrier of the southern Man Imperial City ended up in a miserable state. Bleeding on the head was a light punishment, but dying directly was too unjust. Senior sister, what should we do? In the main hall of the southern barbarian imperial palace, Long Xiaoju looked at Xiao Ya, who was sitting on the throne, and said. The current Xiao Ya was different from before. She had successfully broken through to the Emperor realm. She was finally qualified to sit on the throne in the middle of the hall. On the other hand, Long Xiaoju was still a half-step supreme emperor, which made her a little depressed. Long Xiaozhou's grandfather, the old dragon emperor of the West Sea, was already at the transcendent emperor realm. If Long Xiaozhou's cultivation broke through to the transcendent emperor realm, she would be able to catch up to her grandfather. Grandfather and grandson, 2 transcendent emperors. That would definitely be a story to be told. With Master here, what are you worried about? The little girl said with a smile. Although it was a mess outside, she was still calm. Her subordinates, on the other hand, did not panic. They all knew that their master, Jiyu Fei, would not ignore their life and death. That's true, but outside, Long Xiaoju wanted to say something but hesitated. How could Xiao Ya not know what Long Xiaoju wanted to say? Don't worry. Isn't this an opportunity for us? Xiao Ya said confidently. Opportunity? This time, Long Xiaoju really couldn't guess what opportunity Xiao Ya was talking about. The forces in the city have all fled. Then, can't we directly take over their territories? Xiao Ya said with a smile. Her gaze became incomparably deep. Long Xiaoju didn't expect Xiao Ya to have such an idea. This made her a little surprised because, in her opinion, the entire Southern Man Imperial City was their world. All the forces in the Southern Man Imperial City had already surrendered. Whoever didn't surrender would be destroyed by Xiao Ya and the others. Therefore, if they didn't want to die, they had to surrender. If someone wanted to die, Xiao Ya would definitely not stop them. Snatching in the open is unpopular in the end. But this time, they gave up their territory in the Southern Man Imperial City. If we take over, who dares to say anything? Xiao Ya's expression became solemn. The forces in the Southern Man Imperial City were complicated. Who knew if these forces surrendered on the surface but were secretly dissatisfied? The best way was for Xiao Ya and the others to monopolize the Southern Man Imperial City. However, this seemed impossible because all the forces in the city had admitted defeat and surrendered. If Xiao Ya made a move against these forces that had already surrendered, it would be unpopular. Of course, if it was Ji Yufei, he wouldn't think so complicated. What people's hearts? What schemes? In fact, it was all about strength. As long as you had absolute strength, you could make everyone obediently surrender to me. Simple, direct, fight if you're dissatisfied. This was Ji Yufei. There was no need to think too much. Senior sister, you still have a lot of wicked ideas, Long Xiaoju said with a smile. Xiao Ya glared at Long Xiaoju. In the entire Southern Man Imperial City, only Long Xiaoju dared to talk to her like this. Even the shaman kings of the witch clan and even the heavenly witchcraft saintess didn't dare to joke with her like this. At this time, Xiao Ya's people had already begun to move. At the same time, at the peak of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, in the dueling field, two figures descended from the sky and landed directly in the dueling field. Powerful auras erupted from these two figures. Haha, let's see how you turn the tables this time. When the limitless demon lord saw the people who came, he couldn't help but be surprised and happy. The people who came were the incarnations of Yang Wu and sacred master Shu Tian. Yang Wu was an existence even stronger than the incarnation of sacred master Shu Tian. Mo Ying was still very calm. She was fighting against 5 limitless realm experts by herself, but she was still at ease, as if she hadn't used her full strength. This made the limitless fire spirit and the others extremely shocked. This mysterious guy was really awesome. They never thought that there would be such a number 1 character in the Void Realm. If this mysterious guy wanted to fight for hegemony in the Void Realm, before Ji Yufei returned, there was probably no one in the Void Realm who could be her opponent. But, why didn't these guys make a move? Could it be that these guys were like rats who like to hide in the dark? In fact, the limitless fire spirit and the others didn't know that it wasn't that the Emperor and Mo Ying didn't want to fight for hegemony, but that they couldn't. They had to listen to their master's orders. Their master wanted them to hide in this world, so they couldn't show their faces. The Emperor and Mo Ying were actually extremely depressed. They had a body full of cultivation, but they couldn't show their faces. You guys are really useless. You can't even take care of a little girl. When Yang Wu arrived and saw this scene, she was speechless. 5 limitless realm experts couldn't even defeat a little girl. Everyone was angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. Yang Wu was the existence closest to Ji Yufei. To a certain extent, she was equivalent to Ji Yufei. At this time, who would dare to make Ji Yufei unhappy? Chapter 5594. When Yang Wu arrived, the limitless demon lord and the others retreated at the same time. Mo Ying also stopped. She looked at Yang Wu, a cold glint flashing under her mask. That was her gaze. You're very strong. Mo Ying said to Yang Wu. You're not weak either. Yang Wu was also looking at Mo Ying. This little girl could actually fight with the limitless demon lord and the others endlessly and with ease. This kind of cultivation was enough to sweep through the entire Void Realm. Of course, the premise was that Ji Yufei and Yang Wu did not take action. You want to fight? Mo Ying said. If you don't resist, then there's no need to fight. Yang Wu said. Then let's fight. Mo Ying sighed. It was impossible for her to surrender without putting up a fight. She believed that her cultivation and battle prowess were enough to fight Yang Wu. She might not necessarily lose to her. Okay. After saying so, Yang Wu punched Mo Ying. It seemed like an ordinary punch, but it contained the power of the Great Tao. If she was hit by this punch, even Mo Ying would be seriously injured. Mo Ying sneered. In the next moment, she also punched. Bang! A muffled bang resounded as the two fists smashed against each other. After that, a ring of transparent spatial ripples spread out in all directions like ripples on water. Everything that came into contact with the spatial ripple was immediately shattered into dust. Seeing this, the limitless demon lord and the others directly retreated. In a battle of this level, even they would be heavily injured if they were caught in the shockwaves, let alone the others. If it was an existence below the infinite prime realm, they would be directly destroyed. Bang! Boom! Two figures moved quickly in the void. The muffled sound of collision was extremely shocking and deafening. The void seemed like it was going to explode. Even the seal cast down by the 5 infinite primes had been shaken. A layer of light appeared in the void around the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Countless ancient Tao patterns appeared and interweaved on the light barrier. Ancient Tao diagrams emitted powerful energy fluctuations. The limitless demon lord and the others hurriedly reinforced the seal. At this time, all the experts in the southern barbarian imperial city saw the Emperor Gathering Pavilion covered by a layer of light. Countless cultivators in the southern Man imperial city were inexplicably shocked. What was going on? Could it be that Jiyu Fei and the others had made a move against the Imperial Gathering Pavilion? Countless people were guessing. In the entire southern barbaric imperial city, or even the entire southern barbaric, who else would dare to make a move in the southern barbaric imperial city besides Jiyu Fei's people? Moreover, Xiao Yue's subordinates also started to take action and started to take over the territories left behind by the various powers of the southern barbaric imperial city after they fled. Everyone knew that if these territories fell into the hands of Xiao Yue, it was basically impossible to get them back. No one dared to ask Xiao Yue for territory. The commotion caused by the battle between Yang Wu and Mo Ying was too great. Even though there was a seal blocking it, the sound of the collision still spread out and reverberated throughout the entire southern Man imperial city. Due to that, the countless cultivators within the city grew even more restless. Even those who had planned on observing the situation had no choice but to flee. One had to know that when the supreme existences of the infinite prime realm fought, only the cultivators within the city would suffer. While Yang Wu and Mo Ying were fighting, in the chaos, Jiyu Fei was still refining his incarnation with all his might using the secret technique of the Limitless Emperor. Even Yang Wu can't deal with those two guys in the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. Although Jiyu Fei was in the chaos, with his current cultivation, his powerful divine sense could directly penetrate the chaos and enter the void realm. Naturally, he could sense the current situation of the southern barbaric imperial city. He sensed the auras of Yang Wu and Mo Ying erupting from the top of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. Yang Wu and Mo Ying were actually fighting endlessly. Moreover, Yang Wu was actually evenly matched with Mo Ying for a moment, which made Jiyu Fei feel a little surprised. Jiyu Fei thought, forget about the cultivation and battle prowess of the Emperor, who was at the middle stage of the infinite prime realm. She was defeated by me, but this Mo Ying was very strong. This Mo Ying's cultivation was at the peak of the infinite prime realm. It was no wonder that she could fight against 5 infinite primes, including the limitless demon lord, with ease. No one knew Yang Wu's strength better than Jiyu Fei. It had to be known that he and Yang Wu were in a life-and-death relationship. If one of them died, the other would be buried with her. Jiyu Fei knew very well about Yang Wu's strength, but he had never met Mo Ying before, let alone know the details of this infinite prime. This was because the memory that Jiyu Fei had read of the Limitless Emperor's incarnation was very limited. At this moment, Jiyu Fei had reached the most critical moment of refining the incarnation. The innate chaotic Daoist body had already taken shape, and in the light cocoon formed by the chaotic divine light, a figure was faintly discernible. When the incarnation inside broke out of the cocoon, it would be the time when the incarnation's cultivation was complete. Although the southern wilderness imperial city was in chaos, Xiao Huai's subordinates controlled the situation because they knew that nothing would happen in the southern barbaric imperial city. You have some ability. No wonder those trash can't beat you. At the top of the imperial gathering pavilion, Yang Wu said as she fought. You're not bad either. Mo Ying said coldly. The two of them were actually evenly matched. It was not an easy task to determine the winner between them. Haha, you want to compete with me? Yang Wu laughed. She was a carnate lifeform born from the flame world's will of the universe, and a universe-level lifeform at that. This meant that she could not be the same as ordinary lifeforms. From the day she was born, she was invincible. Until she met the old bastard Sacred Master Shu Tian, Yang Wu fell for Sacred Master Shu Tian's trick. The entire flame world was destroyed, and she could only hide in the little world she created. Yang Wu was originally sleeping in her little world, but she did not expect to be woken up by Ji Yufei. Other than Ji Yufei and the Limitless Emperor's incarnation, this guy was the third infinite prime she had met who could fight against her. Why do I need to compete with you? Mo Ying did not think much of it. She was not an emperor, but she could vaguely see that Yang Wu was not ordinary. The two experts talked as they fought. The Limitless Demon Lord and the others watched nervously from the side. If even Yang Wu could not deal with this guy, then Ji Yufei would have to do it himself. But where was Ji Yufei now? Just as Yang Wu was fighting Mo Ying, Xiao Huai sent a group of subordinates to take over the territories of the major forces. Soon, the entire southern barbaric imperial city was under Xiao Huai's control. However, there was a force that did not evacuate the southern barbaric imperial city. This force was the shaman race. It had to be said that the shaman race was really smart. They stayed in the southern barbaric imperial city with the reason of living and dying together. In reality, they saw Xiao Huai's abnormal actions, so they defended their territory. Chapter 5595. The 8 great shaman kings of the shaman race were now gathered in the shaman palace of the southern Man imperial city. In the main hall of the palace, the sorcerer tribe's saintess, Wu Lingxue, sat on the throne. She had now become the spokesperson of the Sorcerer King and represented the strongest person in the Sorcerer tribe, the Sorcerer King. Wu Lingxue's cultivation had also broken through to the half-step Emperor realm. The reason why Wu Lingxue's cultivation level had risen so quickly was because everyone had guessed that she had received help from the Witch Emperor. Of course, this was just a guess. This was because within the entire Sorcerer tribe, only Wu Lingxue knew where the Sorcerer Emperor was. The others, including the Grand Sorcerer King, did not know where the Sorcerer Emperor was cultivating in seclusion. Although the group of shaman kings did not all submit to Wu Lingxue, they had no choice but to submit to her. This was because Wu Lingxue was backed by the shaman king, the true ruler of the Sorcerer tribe. In fact, within the Sorcerer tribe, everyone had already seen Wu Lingxue as the successor to the Sorcerer King. Furthermore, Wu Lingxue's cultivation base was unparalleled in the entire Sorcerer tribe. The current Wu Lingxue was no longer the Wu Lingxue of the past. In the past, she was just a little princess of the Sorcerer tribe, a heaven sorcerer priestess. But now, things were different. She was the holy maiden of the Sorcerer tribe, the strongest person below the Sorcerer Emperor. Even the 8 great Sorcerer Kings had to listen to her. Your Highness, the Great Witch King broke the silence in the hall. He wanted to say something but stopped himself. All the Witch Kings in the hall looked at Wu Lingxue, who was sitting on the throne. All the Mage Kings present knew what the Great Mage King wanted to ask. All of them pricked up their ears, wanting to know what their saint would do next. At this time, the battle in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was still ongoing. Yang Wu's and Mo Ying's cultivation were on par, so it wouldn't be easy for them to determine a victor. This time, both of them had met their match. For existences at their level, it was really difficult for them to meet a good opponent. It was hard to find an evenly matched opponent. What do you want me to do? In the main hall of the Sorcerer Tribe Palace in the southern barbarian royal capital, Wu Lingxue glanced at everyone present and said indifferently. All the Mage Kings were stunned. Wasn't the Great Mage King asking the Saintess what they should do? Why was the Holy Maiden asking them instead? What was going on? The Mage Kings were uneasy. It seemed like the Saintess was about to stir up trouble. All the Mage Kings present had a bad feeling. It seemed like something bad was about to happen again. Are you mute? Wu Lingxue was wearing a mask, so no one could see her expression. None of the Shaman Kings dared to speak, as they did not know what the Holy Maiden was planning to do. Therefore, all of them tactfully kept quiet, because at this moment, whoever spoke would be unlucky. Aren't you usually very capable? Why aren't you saying anything now? Wu Lingxue's voice turned cold. Your Highness, your words. The Grand Witch King was a little restless. The other Shaman Kings also had different expressions on their faces. What? Do you want me to make it clear? Wu Lingxue said coldly. The expressions of all the Magus Kings present changed drastically. Look what you've done, Wu Lingxue said angrily. Your Highness, as kings of the Sorcerer tribe, everything we do is for the sake of the Sorcerer tribe. The Great Witch King said sternly. Ha ha, upon hearing this, Wu Lingxue burst into laughter. At this moment, the group of Shaman Kings in the hall were no longer anxious, they were all trembling with fear. The current Wu Lingxue had hardened her wings. Grand Witch King, did your precious son fight with Hanfeng, the son of Heavenly Moon King Handong? Wu Lingxue suddenly stared at the Grand Witch King and said. The Grand Witch King was taken aback upon hearing this. The other Shaman Kings looked at the Grand Witch King. Moreover, I heard that you've been secretly expanding your sphere of influence. You've gained a lot of benefits. Wu Lingxue continued. There's absolutely no such thing. Who said that? The Grand Witch King shook his head. It's not important now whether there's such a thing or not. Now, I want you to keep your precious son in check. Don't drag the entire Sorcerer tribe down because of him. Wu Lingxue's tone was emotionless. How would the Grand Witch King dare to speak at this moment? We'll guard our territory and wait and see. All of you better behave. If anyone dares to cause trouble, don't blame me for being ruthless. Wu Lingxue glanced at the group of Shaman Kings and said in a deep voice. Yes, Master. The group of Shaman Kings hurriedly accepted the order. Just as Wu Lingxue was giving the group of Shaman Kings a warning, in the primal chaos beyond the 9 heavens, a powerful force of primal chaos suddenly erupted. All the primal chaos void's primal chaos aura suddenly surged violently and gathered in a frenzy. I've finally succeeded. A sigh sounded in the primal chaos. Then, a figure walked out from the endless primal chaos aura. A powerful force of primal chaos surged from this figure. The primal chaos aura around this figure gathered in a frenzy and was devoured and absorbed by this figure. Streaks of primal chaos Tao patterns appeared and intertwined on his body. In another direction, a figure who was sitting cross-legged in the void stood up. The two of them walked together. The two of them looked exactly the same. They were both young men dressed in black. It was just that the aura on their bodies was different. Innate chaotic Tao body, the young man dressed in black looked at the person who looked exactly like him. The corner of his lips curled up and revealed an evil smile. His plan could finally begin. This young man dressed in black was Ji Yufei. The young man dressed in black who was surrounded by primal chaos aura was the clone of Ji Yufei's innate chaotic Tao body that he had just cultivated. Ji Yufei had successfully cultivated this clone using the cloning secret technique that he had obtained from the Limitless Emperor. It wasn't that the Limitless Emperor's clone couldn't return to the Limitless Realm. It was just that to return to the Limitless Realm, he had to pay a huge price. This price was extremely painful for the Limitless Emperor. Ji Yufei was going to use this special method to enter the Limitless Realm. He was going to explore the Limitless Realm first. Without hesitation, Ji Yufei tore the void apart. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared into the primal chaos Tao body clone. At this moment, a huge spatial crack suddenly appeared in the sky above Nanman. The black hole previously disappeared, but another spatial crack suddenly appeared. This made those living beings in Nanman who had just heaved a sigh of relief couldn't help but be on tenterhooks again. The combat power of the innate chaotic Tao body needed to be tested on someone to know. Meanwhile, Ji Yufei walked out of the spatial crack with his clone. Swoosh. Ji Fei and his doppelganger disappeared into the void in an instant, without a trace. Chapter 5596. Ji Fei's innate chaotic Daoist body incarnation was finally cultivated by him. He needed to find someone to practice with his innate chaotic Daoist body incarnation. He wanted to see how strong his incarnation was. However, the incarnation of the innate chaotic Daoist body condensed endless chaotic energy. Its cultivation was equivalent to a beginner infinite prime. Such battle prowess would definitely not be weak. After Ji Fei emerged from the chaos with his incarnation, he disappeared into the void. In the next moment, Ji Fei and his incarnation appeared at the top of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. What, this? When they sensed that someone had barged into the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, the limitless demon lord and the others were shocked. After all, the Emperor Gathering Pavilion had already been sealed by them. The intruder had actually ignored the seal set up by the 5 infinite primes and directly entered the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. This shocked the limitless demon lord and the others. When the limitless demon lord and the others saw who the intruder was, they were extremely shocked. It's Master. How can there be 2 masters? Did he succeed? When the limitless demon lord and the limitless fire spirit saw 2 Ji Fei suddenly appear, they were a little stunned. Only the incarnation of Sacred Master Shu Tian knew the inside story. Greetings, Master. The limitless demon lord and the others directly bowed to Ji Fei and Ji Fei's incarnation. They did not dare to be impudent in front of Ji Fei. They all became extremely obedient. Ji Fei. When the emperor saw Ji Fei, he directly jumped up in shock. Emperor, Mo Ying. Ji Fei's divine will directly locked onto the emperor and Mo Ying. The emperor was about to escape. He suddenly soared into the sky and threw a punch at the seal set up by the 5 infinite primes. Boom! With a loud sound, the emperor actually blasted a huge hole in the layer of light that covered the entire Emperor Gathering Pavilion. This guy, when the limitless demon lord and the others saw this, they could not help but be shocked and angry. It turned out that this guy had been hiding his true battle prowess. Trying to escape. With a thought from Ji Fei, the incarnation of the carnate chaotic Daoist body beside him disappeared into the void in the next moment. Bam! The void trembled, and the emperor, who had already stepped out of the Juhuang Pavilion's seal, fell from the sky like a meteor. Boom! With a loud bang, the emperor was directly smashed into the Juhuang Pavilion. At this moment, all the experts in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion had already hidden in a secret void, isolating themselves from the outside world. If they had not hidden away immediately, they would have been wiped out by the powerful presence of infinite primes long ago. Of course, this was only for the upper echelons of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. The ordinary disciples in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion were out of luck. At this time, there was absolutely no living thing in the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Rumble, the emperor was knocked down from the sky by the incarnation of Ji Fei's born Taoism aptitude. He crashed into the Emperor Gathering Pavilion, causing the entire pavilion to shake. The entire Imperial Gathering Pavilion almost collapsed, and the walls were filled with cracks. Ji Fei, you've gone too far. The emperor's furious roar rang out from the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. He had been acting weak before the 5 infinite primes, but now that Ji Fei had personally come, he could no longer pretend. He had been beaten up terribly by Ji Fei before. I've bullied you. What can you do to me? Ji Fei's born Taoism aptitude descended from the sky and charged into the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. At this moment, Yang Wu and Mo Ying were still fighting. Ji Fei's real body stood in the void and watched the battle. Master has actually lost. As soon as Mo Ying saw Ji Fei appear, she knew that her master, the primordial emperor, was completely done for. Even the primordial emperor's clone was not Ji Fei's opponent, so how could they fight against Ji Fei? It was no wonder that the emperor had fled as soon as he saw that it was Ji Fei. At this moment, Mo Ying did not want to continue fighting either. He began to consider retreating. Ji Fei had the advantage in numbers. How could he be the opponent of so many infinite primes by himself? Let alone Ji Fei, even Yang Wu's cultivation and battle prowess were on par with her. Now that Ji Fei was here, She would be in trouble if Ji Yufei took action. Primordial Emperor's clone, Mo Ying roared. In the next moment, her figure blurred. When Yang Wu's fist smashed into Mo Ying's silhouette, she was taken aback. After all, it felt as if her fist had struck nothing but air. She didn't feel any force at all. At the same time, countless silhouettes appeared in the void around Yang Wu, attacking her from all directions. "Mph, it's just child's play," Yang Wu sneered. Yang Wu sneered. In the next moment, her body shook, and countless sword lights rushed out of her body, piercing through the countless figures of Mo Ying that were pouncing on her. After Mo Ying's figures were pierced by Yang Wu's sword light, they immediately dissipated into the void. "You want to jump?" Ji Yufei, who was watching from the sidelines, suddenly said. Boom. At this moment, there was a loud sound, and the entire Emperor Gathering Pavilion exploded. Dust rose into the air, and rocks flew everywhere. All the spectating Infinite Primes dodged in a hurry. The bricks and tiles that were flying in all directions all carried the power of an infinite-level expert. Amidst the dust that filled the air, two figures soared into the sky, moving rapidly in the void as they fought continuously. Mo Ying took advantage of the chaos to break through the seal of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion and charge out. Ji Yufei did not stop her. Yang Wu instantly destroyed Mo Ying's figure with her streaks of light. Then, she cut through the dust with her sword and chased after the escaping Mo Ying. That was Yang Wu's opponent, not Ji Yufei's. How is this possible? At this moment, the Emperor was extremely shocked. Ji Yufei's clone was actually so powerful. How did he do it? Ji Yufei's clone was already so powerful. How was he going to let others live? The Limitless Demon Lord and Sacred Master Void Sky's clone were dumbfounded when they saw this. Ji Yufei's clone seemed to have just been cultivated. This was too amazing. Ji Yufei was already very powerful. Now that he had cultivated an Infinite Prime's clone, who in the entire Void Realm could be his opponent? Bam! The Emperor fiercely punched Ji Yufei's doppelganger, and the place where Ji Yufei's doppelganger was hit directly collapsed. Ji Yufei's doppelganger was sent flying back, but the place where he was punched was quickly repairing his broken body. Moreover, more than half of the Emperor's strength was absorbed by Ji Yufei's clone. It can even absorb my strength. Chapter 5597. The Emperor was truly in despair. He realized that he had truly underestimated Ji Yufei. This fellow from the lower realm was able to fight endlessly against him with just a clone. How was this possible? Did Ji Yufei have the potential to fight against his master? In the Emperor's eyes, the truly undefeatable existence was his master in the boundless realm, the Ultimate Emperor. The Ultimate Emperor was definitely one of the oldest leaders in the boundless realm. He was one of the 5 leaders of the boundless realm. These 5 leaders had never been replaced since the beginning of time. The Ji Yufei before him was naturally no match for the Ultimate Emperor. However, the potential that Ji Yufei displayed completely shocked the Emperor. At that moment, Ji Yufei's carnate chaotic daoist body avatar, which had been sent flying by the Emperor's punch, returned. The places on his body that had been punched had completely healed. What a powerful recovery ability. When the Emperor noticed this, he couldn't help but be moved. In fact, he knew very well that as long as Ji Yufei's original body was still around, it would be impossible for Ji Yufei's clone to be destroyed. Because Ji Yufei's original body was here. If the Ultimate Emperor's clone was not in the Void Realm, but in the Boundless Realm, then Ji Yufei would not have been able to devour it. This was because the Ultimate Emperor would have sensed the clone's condition and attacked. However, in the Void Realm, the beginning Extreme the Arch could not sense his clone at all. This was because his clone had lost contact with his original body. The Limitless Extreme the Arch probably didn't even know that his clone had been killed by Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei's natural chaotic body clashed with the Emperor again. The clone attacked without hesitation. However, Ji Yufei's clone was only at the beginning stage of peerless power. There was still a considerable gap between him and a mid-stage peerless power emperor. Very quickly, Ji Yufei's natural chaotic body clone was sent flying by the Emperor again. After the Emperor sent Ji Yufei's carnate chaotic daoist body incarnation flying with a punch, he immediately soared into the sky and tried to escape. However, he could not escape this time. Swoosh! Ji Yufei's real body appeared in front of him, blocking his way. The emperor was shocked and angry. He rushed to the side again. However, Ji Yufei's real body appeared in front of him again. The emperor once again fled in another direction. However, it was of no use. Ji Yufei's real body blocked his way again. What exactly do you want? The emperor was about to go crazy. He pulled at his hair and roared at Ji Yufei. I don't want to do anything. I just want to practice with the clone you gave me. Ji Yufei crossed his arms in front of his chest and said casually. You. The emperor was furious. This fella was actually looking down on him so much that he actually wanted to use him as a practice target for his clone. No one has ever dared to look down on me like this. He completely exploded. I'll kill you. The emperor roared madly and charged towards Ji Yufei. Clang. The sound of weapons being unsheathed could be heard from the emperor's body. In the next moment, the shadows of countless weapons appeared in the void around him, blotting out the sky as they slashed at Ji Yufei. This move is not bad. It's quite imposing. Ji Yufei still stood there without moving. However, there was a powerful wave of energy spreading from his body. All the shadows of weapons that were slashing towards him were all reversed by him. All the shadows of weapons were reversed and slashed towards the emperor. This move again. The emperor was depressed. He had no choice but to block his own attack first. Countless shadows of weapons clashed in the void around him. It was as if real weapons were slashing crazily. The densely packed sounds of weapons clashing could be heard. You're just asking for it if you fight with me. Ji Yufei smiled. The infinite primes who were watching from the side were speechless. The mystique that Ji Yufei used made him invincible. Because he could reverse everyone's attacks. This was equivalent to the honorable emperor fighting himself. How could he possibly defeat himself? At that moment, Ji Yufei's innate chaotic Daoist body clone was already attacking the emperor. Chaotic fist. Ji Yufei's doppelganger immediately punched towards the emperor. Die. The emperor's eyes were red from anger because of Ji Yufei. He waved his right hand and a shadow of a blade met the fist of Ji Yufei's clone. Clang. The emperor's blade shadow slashed at the fist of Ji Yufei's doppelganger. The two figures were sent flying. Sucking my energy again. The emperor could clearly sense that a part of his saber's power had been devoured by Ji Yufei's doppelganger. If the fight continued, he would only end up being tortured by Ji Yufei's clone. Because Ji Yufei's clone was devouring his energy, Ji Yufei's clone was getting stronger as the fight went on, but the emperor's strength was getting weaker. He could still torture Ji Yufei's clone for now, but as time went on, it would be hard to tell who would be the one torturing who. The emperor continued to attack Ji Yufei's doppelgangers. However, no matter how injured Ji Yufei's clone was, it would recover in a short time and attack Ji Yufei's clone again. The emperor wanted to escape, but he couldn't. I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not fighting anymore. Kill me if you want. After the emperor sent Ji Yufei's clone flying again, he stopped. He looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. You've got guts. Ji Yufei's original body gave the emperor a thumbs up. Do I need you to tell me that? The emperor sneered. Good, very good. Let's see if you're going to retaliate. Ji Yufei's original body said. With just a thought, his clone instantly appeared in front of the emperor. Bang! Without any hesitation, Ji Yufei's clone punched the emperor's face. This guy actually didn't dodge or retaliate, allowing Ji Yufei's clone to punch his face. Is this guy stupid? He's not retaliating. There's such a thing. This ability is amazing. The Limitless Demon Lord and the rest were stunned when they saw this scene. Ji Yufei's clone didn't care so much. His fists were like raindrops as they smashed towards the emperor. This guy was really stubborn. He actually didn't retaliate or dodge. Not long later, this guy was beaten into a pig's head by Ji Yufei's clone. The emperor had yet to recover from the previous beating by Ji Yufei, and now he was beaten into a pig's head again. This guy, when Ji Yufei's original body saw this, he couldn't help but frown. I don't believe that you can really endure this. Ji Yufei's main body gritted his teeth. His doppelganger didn't stop and continued to beat the emperor miserably. However, the emperor really didn't retaliate and was directly knocked out by Ji Yufei's clone. This guy's bones are really tough. Ji Yufei looked at the unconscious emperor and couldn't help but look at him in a different light. You have guts. Chapter 5598. Rumble. Since the Emperor Gathering Pavilion in the southern Man Imperial City had collapsed, this caused countless cultivators in the city to be extremely shocked. They couldn't help but look at the place where the smoke and dust rose. The Emperor Gathering Pavilion, the highest-level restaurant in the southern Man Imperial City, actually collapsed and became a thing of the past. What exactly happened? Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but speculate. But there was no doubt that this was definitely the work of Ji Yufei. Because at this time, only Ji Yufei would dare to make such a big move in the southern Man Imperial City. In Ji Yufei's territory, who would dare to make such a big move? Fortunately, the limitless demon lord had already sealed the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. Otherwise, the houses near the Emperor Gathering Pavilion would have suffered. The magnificent Emperor Gathering Pavilion had become a ruin just like that. Many people felt that it was a pity. Why did Ji Yufei attack the Emperor Gathering Pavilion? The higher-ups of the Witch clan also came to the sky above the southern Man Imperial City. They couldn't help but be shocked when they saw the billowing smoke and dust where the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was located. Go and investigate the origin of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion. The saintess of the Witch clan, Wu Lingxue, said to the Witch Kings. Yes, Your Highness. The Witch Kings hurriedly accepted the order. Hey, isn't this the saintess of the Witch clan? At this time, a figure rushed up from below and came to the opposite of Wu Lingxue. Long Xiaoju? When Wu Lingxue saw the person, she couldn't help but frown. You Witch clan are awesome. Long Xiaoju gave Wu Lingxue a thumbs up. I don't know what you're talking about. Wu Lingxue said indifferently. You're so smart, how can you not know what I'm talking about? Long Xiaoju smiled. At this time, in the southern Man Imperial City, Long Xiaozhou's subordinates were quickly occupying the territories of the major forces in the city and taking over the businesses that were empty. However, only the territory of the Witch clan was guarded by the disciples of the Witch clan. No matter how chaotic the outside world was, they didn't retreat. Xiao Ya and Long Xiaoju took over the places that were unguarded. Therefore, the territory of the Witch clan was guarded, so they didn't attack the Witch clan. After all, the sorcerer tribe had already submitted. With the collapse of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion, countless cultivators in the city became even more terrified. They all rushed toward the city gate, wanting to leave the city as soon as possible. Presently, the 4 city gates of the southern barbaric Imperial City were all blocked to the point that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Princess Xiaoju, I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Wu Lingxue cupped her hands towards the dragon boat on the opposite side, and then directly flew towards the Nanman royal city below. Hey, why are you in such a hurry? Long Xiaoju did not expect Wu Lingxue to leave the moment she saw him. Wu Lingxue no longer paid attention to Long Xiaoju and directly entered the southern barbaric Imperial City. The shaman kings hurriedly chased after him. They were extremely afraid in front of Long Xiaoju. After all, Long Xiaoju was a half-step transcendent emperor. He could kill them all with a single slap. A bunch of cowards. Long Xiaoju said disdainfully. Actually, it was not that these witch kings were cowards, but that Long Xiaoju was too powerful. She was Ji Yufei's disciple and the little princess of the West Sea Dragon clan. Long Xiaoju was not a person who was easy to talk to. If there was a disagreement, the consequences would be unpredictable. Xiao Ya, on the other hand, was calmer and more low-key. However, even if Xiao Ya wanted to be low-key, she couldn't. Who asked her to be the disciple of Ji Yufei? Her strength did not allow her to be low-key. Long Xiaoju turned around and looked in the direction of the Imperial Gathering Pavilion. That was a good restaurant. He did not expect it to collapse just like that. The location of the Emperor Gathering Pavilion was very good. It was the most prosperous street in the southern barbaric Imperial City. This Emperor Gathering Pavilion was also the most profitable restaurant in the southern barbaric Imperial City, and the people it entertained were all powerful and influential figures. It was also the place where the playboys in the southern barbaric imperial city often gathered. Now, in this southern barbaric imperial city, there was no imperial gathering pavilion anymore. At this time, in the sky above the ruins of the imperial gathering pavilion, Gu Fei's innate chaotic Tao body avatar was ruthlessly torturing the emperor. The emperor said that he would not fight back, and he really did not fight back. In this way, Gu Fei was very unhappy. He originally wanted to find the emperor to let his avatar practice. If the emperor did not make a move, what was the point of his avatar practicing? Forget it, I'll let you go. Gu Fei's avatar no longer made a move. But at this time, the emperor had already been miserably tortured by his avatar. You are now my captive. Gu Fei stared at the emperor and said coldly. Why? An angry and unwilling divine sense erupted from the emperor's body. There is no reason, just because my fist is harder than your fist. After saying that, Gu Fei did not wait for His Majesty to say anything else. Instead, he sent one seal after another into His Majesty's body. This is the one thought life and death seal. Your life and death are in my hands. So, you can be at ease as my slave in the future, Gu Fei said. What? When the emperor heard this, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of old blood. This Gu Fei is really too much. He actually planted a forbidden technique on my body. This way, as long as he didn't want to die, he would have to obediently listen to Gu Fei. Of course, if he wanted to die, it was very simple. He could just fight with Gu Fei. At this time, the limitless demon lord and the others felt their hearts tremble. This was because the limitless demon lord and the limitless fire spirit had both been planted with the one thought life and death seal by Gu Fei. The limitless snow goblin, the myriad demon ancestor, and the limitless sword master were much luckier. This was because Gu Fei did not do anything to them. As for the clone of sacred master Void Sky, it was Yang Wu who subdued it. It had nothing to do with Gu Fei. That's it. I want to go to the 9 heavens now. Aren't you going to lead the way? Gu Fei said to the emperor. Although the emperor seemed to be heavily injured, his avatar did not really kill him. Therefore, the emperor's vitality was not injured. How did you know? The emperor was shocked when he heard this. One must know that the secret of above the 9 heavens was only known by him and Himoying. There was no third person in the void realm who knew this secret. I devoured your master. Do you understand now? Gu Fei looked at the shocked emperor and said. The emperor was almost scared out of his wits by Gu Fei's words. He actually devoured his master? How was this possible? His master was an invincible existence. Even if it was a clone of his master that had come to the lower realm, it was not something that Gu Fei could devour just because he wanted to. However, Gu Fei had no reason to lie to him. Moreover, Gu Fei knew the secret of above the 9 heavens. It seemed that his master's clone was in danger. Thinking of this, the emperor had no choice but to be honest. He really did not want to die. If he could live, who would want to die? For an infinite prime like the emperor, as long as there was a chance of survival, he would choose to live. Although it was not easy to live, it was better than dying. The emperor had no choice but to soar into the sky and lead the way. Gu Fei and the other infinite primes followed closely behind. Chapter 5599. Even the members of the Ling Tian Palace didn't know about the secrets above the 9 heavens. This was because the 9 heavens was simply too big. The Ling Tian Palace was merely in an inconspicuous corner. The limitless Great Emperor's teleportation formation platform was in another place above the 9 heavens. Moreover, it was covered by layers of formations. No one could sense the existence of the teleportation formation platform. Of course, Gu Fei had devoured the limitless Great Emperor's clone and knew everything. Therefore, it wasn't difficult for him to find the teleportation formation platform. Under the lead of the Emperor, Gu Fei and the others rushed above the 9 heavens and arrived at an empty space. There was nothing in front of them. However, when the Emperor activated the formation, a huge formation platform appeared in the empty void in front of them. The teleportation formation platform was like a black mountain floating in the air. It exuded an ancient and vicissitude aura. The space around the teleportation formation platform was filled with ancient runes. These runes intertwined to form countless diagrams. Every diagram intertwined with each other to form a complete formation. It was these layers of formations that isolated the aura of the teleportation formation platform. Even the supreme existences of the limitless realm couldn't sense its existence. The limitless demon lord, sacred master Shu Qian's clone, and the others were stunned when they saw the teleportation formation platform. They didn't expect such an ancient teleportation formation platform to exist in the void realm. The teleportation formation platform above the 9 heavens was much older than the one in the divine race's ancestral grounds. Compared to this teleportation formation platform, the one in the divine race's ancestral grounds was like a little brother. Ji Yufei was shocked when he saw the teleportation formation platform. No wonder the limitless Great Emperor's clone could descend into the void realm. This teleportation formation platform might really be able to break through the boundaries of the limitless realm. Many of the formations that covered the teleportation formation platform were super spirit gathering formations. They constantly gathered spiritual energy from the heaven and earth for the teleportation formation platform. The energy that this teleportation formation platform had accumulated over the years was absolutely shocking. This was an unimaginably powerful force. Even Ji Yufei was tempted by this energy. Others might not be able to refine and devour this energy, but he could. However, this was not the time to think about the power of this teleportation formation. He still wanted to use this teleportation array to enter the limitless realm first to explore the way. At this time, the Emperor had already opened up the layers of formations. "Master, please," the Emperor said respectfully to Ji Yufei. At this moment, the Emperor had completely surrendered. His life was in the hands of Ji Yufei, so he had no choice but to admit defeat. At this moment, Mo Ying was nowhere to be seen, and Yang Wu had yet to return. Ji Yufei didn't wait for Yang Wu. He passed through the layers of arrays and entered the void where the ancient teleportation platform was located. The void where this ancient teleportation formation platform was located was much larger than it looked from the outside. Because of the layers of formations, the void inside was a world of its own. The limitless demon master, the limitless sword master, and the others also followed Ji Yufei into the void. With a thought, Ji Yufei's carnate chaotic daoist body incarnation soared into the sky and landed on the ancient formation platform. Rumble, the runes on the entire formation platform lit up. Rays of divine light rushed out from the formation platform and circled around it. The Emperor couldn't help being shocked. Ji Yufei was actually able to activate the formation. It had to be known that even he couldn't activate it. Only his master, the limitless Emperor, knew how to activate it. Ji Yufei had even read his master's memories. The Emperor broke out in cold sweat at this thought. "Master, what are you?" The limitless fire spirit stared at Ji Yufei in shock. "I want to send a strand of my consciousness into the limitless realm to explore the way." Ji Yufei's main body stared at the clone on the teleportation formation platform with a solemn expression. When the surrounding people heard this, they were all shocked, especially the Emperor. Was this even possible? Without the cultivation of the extreme heaven realm, no one could enter and leave the limitless realm freely. Even his master, the limitless Emperor, could only send a clone into the void realm. At this moment, Ji Yufei's clone, who was on the teleportation formation platform, was completely enveloped by the divine light that erupted from the platform. A powerful ripple of energy, so powerful that even the limitless demon master and the others felt their hearts palpitate, spread out from the platform. The limitless demon master and the others felt a sense of fear. Could this kind of power really break through the limitless realm's barrier? One should know that there was only one way to enter the limitless realm, and that was to break through the limitless realm's barrier. Only by breaking through the limitless realm's barrier could one enter the limitless realm. However, the limitless realm's barrier was unimaginably sturdy. Even the supreme existences of the limitless realm could only break through the limitless realm's barrier after cultivating to the extreme heaven realm. Even the current Ji Yufei would not be able to break through the limitless realm's barrier. The power of the ancient teleportation formation continued to increase, and the entire void shook. Even the limitless demon master, the limitless sword master, and the others had to retreat far away. Only Jiyu Fei remained unmoved. Boom! With a loud sound, a beam of divine light shot up from the platform. It pierced through the void and entered the endless chaos, disappearing in an instant. At the same time, the powerful energy wave from the ancient teleportation formation platform weakened rapidly. The divine light also weakened, and the entire platform gradually calmed down. The ancient teleportation formation platform gradually stopped operating. On the platform, the clone of the carnate chaotic daoist body that Jiyu Fei had just cultivated disappeared. He entered the limitless realm just like that. The group of limitless primes were all shocked. From today onwards, I will be cultivating in seclusion here. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. With that, Jiyu Fei leaped onto the ancient teleportation formation platform and sat down cross-legged. He was going to cultivate in seclusion here. The limitless demon master and the others were a little stunned. Jiyu Fei was actually going to cultivate in seclusion here? Master, the limitless fire spirit was a little worried. This was above the 9 heavens, far away from the void realm. Moreover, there were layers of formations here. Even if the outside world was turned upside down, the people inside would not know. I'm still in the void realm. What are you worried about? Jiyu Fei's voice came from the ancient teleportation formation platform. The limitless fire spirit did not say anything else. All of you can leave. Go do what you need to do. Jiyu Fei said. Yes. The group of limitless primes immediately left. At this time, Jiyu Fei's innate chaotic Dao body clone was wrapped in a ball of divine light, and it was moving quickly in the chaos. Very soon, he sensed a vast aura coming from the front. Chapter 5600. Jiyu Fei was cultivating in seclusion in the 9 heavens, but his natural chaotic daoist body clone had stepped onto the ancient formation platform that led to the limitless realm. He had refined the clone of the limitless emperor and knew everything. This ancient formation platform was built by the limitless emperor. It took a lot of effort to send it out of the limitless realm. Then, the emperor and Mo Ying brought it to the 9 heavens of the void realm. After countless years, the limitless emperor finally used this formation platform to send one of his clones from the limitless realm to the void realm. When the limitless emperor's clone crossed over, he used the power of the limitless realm. The formation platform in the 9 heavens of the void realm did not use much power. However, this time, Jiyu Fei had to use the power of the formation platform in the 9 heavens of the void realm in order to send a strand of his consciousness into the limitless realm. Therefore, the energy consumed by the formation platform this time had reached an unimaginable level. Jiyu Fei might not be able to activate the formation platform again. Nobody knew how long it would take for the formation platform to recover its power. Boom! There was a loud bang. Just like the last time, the ray of light that was moving rapidly in the primal chaos slammed into the wall of the limitless realm. The moment this stream of light hit the boundary of the limitless realm, Jiyu Fei's carnate chaotic daoist body incarnation within the stream of light directly turned into dust. The clone's body completely disappeared in an instant. However, a strand of his consciousness remained. At the same time, the wall of the limitless realm rippled like water. Jiyu Fei's consciousness passed through it. In the blink of an eye, the wall of the limitless realm recovered. Such a powerful force was unable to break through the wall of the limitless realm. However, the strand of consciousness from Jiyu Fei's natural chaotic daoist body clone grasped that fleeting opportunity and successfully passed through the wall of the limitless realm. This was the method that the limitless emperor had researched for countless years before he succeeded in entering and exiting the limitless realm. Furthermore, this method was extremely dangerous. If one wasn't careful, they would end up with their soul destroyed. Even someone as powerful as the ultimate monarch didn't dare to try it himself. This was also the reason why Jiyu Fei directly cultivated a clone after knowing that this method could allow him to enter the limitless realm. He did not dare to try this method himself. Last time, he was forced by Sacred Master Void Sky's incarnation and the limitless Demon Lord to step onto the teleportation array in the ancestral land of the Heaven Race, and he almost died in front of the Limitless Realms barrier. He actually succeeded. Up in the sky of the Void Extent, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on the ancient formation platform, suddenly sighed. Even though it was just a strand of his consciousness that had entered the limitless world, the significance of it was still extraordinary. What he had to do next was to wait. At the same time, in the eastern region of the limitless realm, battle cries shook the heavens and the earth. Countless people clad in battle armor were fighting with all their might. There were corpses and fallen weapons everywhere. Blood dyed the ground red, and the air was filled with a nauseating smell of blood. Wang Zhong was only a small soldier of the East Moon Empire. In order to let his mother and sister live a good life, he joined the army, hoping to make a name for himself. He did not even dare to think about becoming a minister. He would be satisfied if he could become a minor official. However, fate was cruel. A great battle had erupted between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Sky Empire, so he had no choice but to enter the battlefield. Wang Zhong fought with all his might. There were soldiers fighting crazily all around him. He only wanted to live. However, the tyrannical Sky Empire was stronger than the East Moon Empire, and the tyrannical Sky Empire's army was double that of the East Moon Empire's. The battle had just begun, and the East Moon Empire was already at a disadvantage. Very soon, Wang Zhong's companions around him were killed by the tyrannical Sky Empire. Several soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire charged at him viciously at the same time. Kill. Wang Zhong gripped his saber tightly and directly met them. Clang. Wang Zhong split the spear in the hands of a soldier of the tyrannical Sky Empire in two. Wherever the saber passed, blood splattered. The soldier of the tyrannical Sky Empire was directly knocked to the ground. However, the other soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire had already charged over. Clanging sounds rang out continuously. Weapons collided, and sparks flew everywhere. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Very soon, Wang Zhong's left shoulder was struck, and blood splattered everywhere. Die, all of you! Wang Zhong roared furiously as he wildly swung his saber. Unfortunately, there were just too many soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire. As soon as one fell, another would take its place. Very soon, Wang Zhong was covered in wounds, and blood dyed his armor red. There was no such thing as life and death in the Endless Realm. However, Wang Zhong was only a small soldier. If he suffered a fatal injury, he would also die. Spurt. A spear directly pierced through Wang Zhong, directly lifting him up from his back. I can't die. Wang Zhong slashed the spear in half with a backhand slash, and then fell to the ground. However, at the same time, a soldier of the tyrannical Sky Empire slashed his body, knocking him to the ground. Wang Zhong lay on the ground, continuously coughing up blood. It was obvious that he would not survive. The beings of the Endless Realm possessed almost endless lifespans. This was related to the undying substance contained in the Endless Realm. If one wanted to be undying, the prerequisite was to not be killed by others. At this time, Wang Zhong would not be able to survive. At this moment, a weak divine light descended from the sky above the plains, directly landing on Wang Zhong's body. Wang Zhong, who was heavily injured and on the verge of death, actually received endless vitality in an instant. The wounds on his body rapidly healed, healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. His originally lifeless eyes once again revealed a cold and sharp gaze that was like cold electricity. A powerful aura spread out from Wang Zhong's body. How is this possible? The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire around Wang Zhong were all stunned when they saw this. This guy had clearly been killed by them, so how did he suddenly come back to life? Ordinary soldiers had never seen such a strange thing before. Only those important figures had the ability to bring the dead back to life. This guy was only a soldier of the East Moon Empire. This is the Endless Realm. Wang Zhong, who had come back to life, had a blank expression. He had actually taken over the body of a severely injured and dying little fellow. This body was really too weak. Were there such weak humans in the Endless Realm? Gu Fei had originally thought that the beings in the Endless Realm were extremely powerful, But when he saw countless soldiers fighting with their lives on the line, he felt as if he had returned to the human world. However, this was definitely not the human world. The person who had taken over Wang Zhon's body was Ji Yufei. To be more precise, it was a strand of Ji Yufei's will. Ji Yufei's will had successfully entered the Endless Realm, and then taken over Wang Zhon's body. At this moment, Ji Yufei was also a little confused. He had never thought that his will would take over such a weak body. If this was the case, when would he be able to mature? Chapter 5601. Ji Yufei's luck really couldn't be any better. As soon as he entered the Limitless Realm, he encountered a great battle between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Heaven Empire. Coincidentally, a mere battle soldier from the East Moon Empire was heavily injured by a local battle soldier, and was about to receive his bento box. However, in the instant the soldier was about to receive his bento box, Ji Yufei's consciousness arrived and directly took over the soldier's body. Ji Yufei's consciousness took over the soldier's body. At this moment, in the space of the consciousness. Who are you? I'm Ji Yufei. What do you want? I don't want to do anything. I just want to borrow your body. Ji Yufei's will and that of the soldier from the East Moon Empire stared at each other in Wang Zhon's consciousness. Just take it as a nap. When you wake up, I'll return you a complete and powerful body of Tao. Ji Yufei's will said. No, how can I lend my body to someone else? Wang Zhon said angrily. No. Then you'll have to receive your bento box immediately. Ji Yufei's will said disapprovingly. What do you mean by receiving a bento box? Wang Zhon was shocked, angry, nervous, anxious, and irritable. He could not die. Nothing could happen to him. He was the pillar of the family. If something happened to him, who would take care of his mother and sister? Wang Zhon was extremely excited at the thought of his mother and sister. I didn't expect you to have such a strong desire to live. Ji Yufei's will was rather surprised, but so what? This guy called Wang Zhon was about to die. He could actually wait until Wang Zhon received his bento box completely and then take over this body. However, this soldier seemed to still be salvageable. Right now, he was the only one who could save this soldier. Furthermore, he learned about this soldier's life from his memories. He had a sickly mother and a young sister. This soldier called Wang Zhon's entire family relied on him to earn money. Wang Zhon's father was also a soldier of the East Moon Empire and had already died on the battlefield. As the lowest-ranking soldiers, they could only struggle bitterly in the unbounded realm. In the eyes of Ji Yufei and the others, the unbounded realm was not as wonderful as they had imagined. Aside from the near-limitless lifespans of the living beings here, they seemed to be no different from other worlds. They were also poor and backward. Here, there were also countless nobodies who had no choice but to struggle on the edge of life and death in order to survive. There were endless battles between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Heaven Empire, and the ones who suffered the most were the common people of the two empires. The soldiers who only knew some superficial cultivation methods had no control over their own lives. Sigh, receiving a bento box means death. Ji Yufei's spiritual will sighed. You mean I'm going to die soon? Hearing this, Wang Zhon became even more terrified and excited. Right now, only I can save you. Of course, you have to lend me your body. Ji Yufei's spiritual will said indifferently. Wang Zhon didn't speak. He was stunned for a long time before saying, Can I trust you? Do you have any other choice apart from trusting me? Ji Yufei's spiritual will crossed its arms and looked at Wang Zhon's spiritual will indifferently. Wang Zhon's spiritual will was stunned. He didn't know what to say for a moment. It seemed like he really had no other choice apart from trusting the black-robed young man in front of him. Of course, he still had another choice, which was to die. However, he just couldn't die. Therefore, he had no other choice. All right, I trust you. Wang Zhon had no choice but to accept all of this. Very well, then go to sleep. As Ji Yufei's spiritual will spoke, a powerful spiritual will power erupted and occupied Wang Zhon's entire sea of consciousness. Wang Zhon's spiritual will gradually fell into a deep sleep. Now, Ji Yufei's spiritual will had complete control over this body. In fact, he could have gone through so much trouble. He could have just forcibly erased Wang Zhon's consciousness. However, he didn't do that. Ji Yufei's spiritual will had read Wang Zhon's memories. Now, he was using Wang Zhon's identity to travel the everlasting realm. He was Wang Zhon, and Wang Zhon was him, Ji Yufei. Of course, Ji Yufei's real body was still in the void realm, waiting for his clone to return. I have to grow up as soon as possible, but this body is just too weak. Sigh. When Ji Yufei controlled Wang Zhon's body to stand up from the ground with his spiritual will, the surrounding soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire were shocked. These people had just killed this guy. After suffering such heavy injuries, there was only one outcome for Wang Zhon, and that was death. But now, this guy who was supposed to be dead stood up again. Moreover, all the injuries on his body had miraculously healed. How is this possible? A soldier of the tyrannical Sky Empire was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. This was because he was the one who had dealt the fatal blow to this guy from the East Moon Empire. What's going on? Do I have to get a bento box as soon as I arrive? Wang Zhon was also dumbfounded. No, it should be Ji Yuzhon now. Ji Yufei's clone was now using the name Ji Yuzhon to roam the unbounded realm. How is this possible? Kill him again. The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire pressed towards Ji Yufei's clone who was using the name Ji Yuzhon. Scram if you don't want to die. Ji Yuzhon glanced at them coldly. Kill. The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire immediately roared and charged at Ji Yufei. These soldiers had only been transmitted some basic cultivation methods. These cultivation methods were similar to martial arts or battle techniques, and were specially created for soldiers. However, this was the simplest and most direct battle technique that could take someone's life. These soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire were experienced in battle, and they had great teamwork. If it was the Wang Zhon from before, he would naturally be killed by them again. However, he was not Wang Zhon now, but Ji Yuzhon. You dare to use battle techniques in front of me? Ji Yuzhon really found this very funny. He was a cultivator, and what was a cultivator most proficient in? Wasn't it just martial arts and battle techniques? He grabbed the air with his right hand, and a saber on the ground immediately flew up and was caught in his hand. Ji Yuzhon used his movement technique, easily dodging the attacks of the soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Then, he raised his blade and slashed down, killing one of the soldiers with a single slash. What? The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire were all shocked. How did this guy suddenly become so powerful? Ji Yufei used the desolate steps, dodging all the attacks in an extremely ingenious manner. Then, he calmly slashed out with his blade, killing them one by one in a simple and direct manner. Wang Zhon, are you all right? At this moment, a middle-aged soldier rushed over and asked hurriedly when he saw Ji Yuzhon covered in blood. Uncle Xian, I'm fine. This middle-aged soldier was his father's comrade, the Black Tiger. In the East Moon Empire's army, the Black Tiger had taken good care of Wang Zhon. Chapter 5602. The East Moon Empire was only a medium-sized empire in the easternmost region of the Infinite Realm. The easternmost region of the Infinite Realm was extremely vast, and it was the ultimate emperor's territory. In the easternmost region, there were at least a dozen empires like the East Moon Empire, and there were only 3 truly large empires. As for the smaller empires, there were even more. The ultimate emperor was the true master of the easternmost region. In the easternmost region, all forces had to listen to him. Everyone was his subordinate. Over the countless years, no one dared to resist. The Extreme God Mountain was where the ultimate emperor's temporary residence was located. It was also the supreme holy land in the hearts of countless cultivators in the easternmost region. Wherever the attendants of the Extreme God Mountain went, all forces, regardless of whether they were large empires or medium-sized empires, would receive them respectfully. No one dared to slight them. The ultimate emperor actually rarely managed the easternmost region, and there were constant conflicts between the various empires. The East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Sky Empire had been fighting for tens of thousands of years. Of course, time was the most worthless thing in the Infinite Realm, because all living beings in the Infinite Realm possessed long lifespans. There was no such thing as natural death. In theory, Living beings in the infinite realm were immortal. However, they would also die. Just like humans in the infinite realm, if they were injured and lost too much blood, their lives would be in danger. Any living being in the limitless realm would die if they suffered a fatal injury. At this moment, on a grassland between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Sky Empire, the armies of both sides were fighting fiercely. No one thought that an outsider had already possessed the body of a soldier from the East Moon Empire called Wang Zhon. After Ji Yufei's soul sense entered the infinite realm, it possessed Wang Zhon's body. Moreover, he wanted to help Wang Zhon out, so he did not erase his soul sense. Wang Zhon was only a soldier at the bottom of the East Moon Empire, but he had the heavy burden of taking care of his mother and younger sister. If he wanted to survive in this world, having an endless lifespan was not enough. In the infinite realm, humans were also inseparable from basic necessities. Most people would go hungry even if they did not eat. Only truly powerful cultivators could absorb energy from the world to nourish themselves. Wang Zhon naturally didn't have that kind of ability. At this moment, the East Moon Empire was already showing signs of defeat. The Heaven Tyrant Empire's army had the advantage in numbers, and the Heaven Tyrant Empire also had more cultivators than the East Moon Empire. On the ground, it was a battle between soldiers, but in the sky, it was a battle between experts. Even in the infinite world, not everyone could cultivate to infinite prime. Below infinite prime were the mortal, earth, heaven, God, and sainthood realms. In the limitless realm was above the sage realm, and the limitless realm was further divided into the extreme mortal realm, the extreme earth realm, the extreme heaven realm, the extreme saint realm, the extreme emperor realm, and the ultimate realm. Little soldier King Zhon was only at the early human stage. This physical body was simply too weak. Ji Yufei's spiritual will was also speechless. He did not want to receive a bento box the moment he arrived in the limitless realm. After Ji Yufei's spiritual force obtained Wang Zhon's physical body, he changed his name to Ji Yuzhon. He was very careful because that despicable old fellow, Sacred Master Shu Tian, had already returned to the limitless realm. If he used the name Ji Yufei here, it was very likely that he would attract that fellow's attention. This was not a good thing for him. He was here to explore the way, not to seek death. In the limitless realm, Ji Yuzhon was Ji Yufei's clone, as well as Wang Zhon. Having just arrived here, Ji Yufei's clone needed an identity. This would be beneficial for him to move about in the limitless realm without attracting the attention of Sacred Master Shu Tian. Sacred Master Shu Tian was a lunatic. No one could imagine that this fellow would do something unexpected, and Ji Yufei's clone had no idea where this fellow was hiding. Let's go. At this moment, the army of the East Moon Empire began to retreat. It had to be said that the army of the East Moon Empire was truly a battle-hardened army. Although they had lost, there were no signs of them dispersing. All the soldiers were still fighting the enemy, but they were fighting as they retreated. They did not panic, and there were no deserters. The middle-aged soldier called Black Tiger protected Ji Yuzhon as they retreated. At this moment, high up in the sky, the outcome of the battle between the two empires had also been decided. Blood rained down from the sky, and the battle was extremely intense. Dull sounds of collisions rang out in the sky like thunder. Powerful forces collided. Ji Yufei's clone, Ji Yuzhon, raised his head and looked up into the sky. He saw several figures fighting high up in the sky. 3 against 2. He discovered that on the side of the tyrannical Sky Empire, there were 3 Heaven Stage battle generals teaming up against the 2 Heaven Stage battle generals on the side of the East Moon Empire. In the limitless realm, only those who had cultivated to the Heaven Stage could fly in the sky. 5 Heaven Stage cultivators fought with all their might in the sky. The 2 Heaven Stage battle generals of the East Moon Empire retreated as they fought. They could not hold on anymore. The other side had 3 Heaven Stage battle generals. Actually, in this battle between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Sky Empire, the East Moon Empire was already at a disadvantage right from the start. This was because the East Moon Empire only had 2 Heaven Stage battle generals, while the tyrannical Sky Empire had 3. Moreover, the East Moon Empire had fewer soldiers than the tyrannical Sky Empire. Thus, the outcome of this battle had already been decided long ago. Jiyu Zhon and his uncle Xian retreated with the East Moon Empire's army in defeat. Along the way, they left behind countless corpses of the East Moon Empire's soldiers. It was an extremely tragic sight. Under the lead of their Earth-stage battle generals, the East Moon Empire's army retreated several dozen kilometers in defeat, directly retreating to Black Chilean City. The guards of Black Chilean City hurriedly opened the city gates to let them in. On the city walls, countless archers released their arrows at the same time. A rain of arrows shot into the sky from the city walls, falling towards the pursuing soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Retreat! An Earth-stage battle general of the tyrannical Sky Empire raised his arm and called out. The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire immediately stopped. All the soldiers raised the shields in their hands and retreated. The rain of arrows fell. Most of them were blocked by the shields raised by the soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire, but there were still some unlucky fellows who were hit by the arrows and immediately lost their lives. As countless soldiers retreated into Black Chilean City, Jiyu Zhon heaved a sigh of relief. As the heavy city gates slowly closed, everyone relaxed. Inside the city gates, countless soldiers sat paralyzed on the ground. Everyone was exhausted. Jiyu Zhon was the same. He and Uncle Xian also sat down on the ground. Come, have a sip. Uncle Xian took out a wine gourd and took a sip himself, then passed it to Jiyu Zhon. Jiyu Zhon accepted the wine gourd and tilted his head back to take a big gulp. A stream of boiling hot wine flowed directly into his stomach. His whole body felt hot, and his whole spirit was refreshed. Good wine. Jiyu Zhon passed the wine gourd in his hand to Uncle Xian. You have 2 hours to leave the city and surrender, or the entire city will be slaughtered. Chapter 5603. You have 2 hours to leave the city and surrender, or the entire city will be massacred. An extremely dignified voice came from outside Black Chilean City, echoing throughout the city. Everyone in the city was terrified. Black Chilean City was not a small city. There were hundreds of thousands of citizens in the city, and at least 200,000 soldiers from the East Moon Empire were stationed there. Although the army of the tyrannical Sky Imperial City was powerful, it would not be easy for them to breach the city. However, the morale of the tyrannical Sky Imperial City's army was high. If they attacked the city without a care, it would not be easy for the East Moon Empire's army to defend the city. Ba Fei, you sure talk big. Do you have the ability to breach the city? Just as countless people in the city were terrified, a voice rang out. It was not loud, but it echoed in the surroundings. Everyone in the city heard it. A woman. Within the eastern city gate, Jiyu Fei's clone, Jiyu Zhon, could not help being startled when he heard this. The person who spoke should be a young lady. Of course, the young here was actually referring to her appearance. Jiyu Fei would never judge a person by their appearance. That was because a cultivator's appearance was the most unreliable. Hey, it's the little princess, Dongyu Shuer? The person outside exclaimed. Haha, I've really searched far and wide for you, only to find you by chance. Dongyu Shuer, let's see where you can run this time. The person outside laughed loudly. Ba Fei, did a pig kick you in the head? The female voice rang out again. What did you say? The person outside was instantly enraged. Eat my arrow. In the next moment, Jiyu Zhon, who was Jiyu Fei's clone, felt a powerful wave of Yuan Qi erupt from the city. Then, he saw an arrow flash across the sky above the eastern gate like a graceful swan. The arrow was extremely fast. Jiyu Zhon was the only one who saw it disappear in an instant. No one else could see it at all. A scream came from outside the city. Then, the person outside the city stopped talking. It was unknown if he had been killed by the arrow. TSK, a piece of trash wants to slaughter the city? I'll slaughter you first. The princess in the city said disdainfully. Countless people in the city were surprised and overjoyed. With Princess Dongyu holding the fort in the city, how could the army of the tyrannical Sky Empire break into the city? With Princess Dongyu in the city, the Dongyu Empire would fight to the death with the tyrannical Heaven Empire. However, the battles that followed would be even more intense. This was inevitable. The ones who suffered the most were the countless frontline soldiers of the two dynasties. However, this was not what Jiyu Zhon needed to think about right now. This physical body was simply too useless. How to survive in this battle was the most important thing. If he was killed, he would have to find another body to possess. Jiyu Fei's spiritual will really did not want to possess another body. Kid, your father died to save me back then. I definitely won't let you die before me. The black tiger patted Wang Zhon's shoulder in fear. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the current Wang Zhon was no longer the Wang Zhon of the past. Of course, the physical body was Wang Zhon's, but the consciousness that occupied it was Jiyu Fei's. The name of Jiyu Fei's clone was Jiyu Zhon. However, in the black tiger's eyes, Jiyu Zhon was Wang Zhon, the son of his comrade who had gone through life and death with him. Thank you, Uncle Black. Jiyu Zhon clasped his hands at the black tiger. There's no need to be so polite between us. The black tiger smiled. Yes, I have a daughter. If I die in battle and you live, then you can help me take care of her. How about that? The black tiger suddenly said to Jiyu Zhon with a solemn expression. All right. Jiyu Zhon agreed without even thinking about it. Then it's a deal. The black tiger was very happy. While Jiyu Fei's clone was talking to the black tiger, the army of the tyrannical Heaven Empire had already set up camp a few kilometers outside the city. At this moment, in the main tent of the tyrannical Heaven Empire's army, the generals of the tyrannical Heaven Empire looked at a young man in battle armor lying on a soft bed. There was a black arrow stuck in the young man's left shoulder. The black arrow had pierced through his left shoulder, and the arrowhead had come out from his back. Dongyu swear I, Ba Fei, swear to avenge this arrow. The young man on the soft bed said while gritting his teeth. His face was as pale as a piece of paper, without a trace of blood. It was obvious that he was heavily injured by the arrow. Your Highness, why don't you return to the royal city first? In the main tent, a middle-aged general in silver battle armor said carefully to the young man. Behind the middle-aged general, a dozen other generals looked at the young man. Ba Fei was the youngest brother of the tyrannical Heaven Emperor of the tyrannical Heaven Emperor. He was also the most beloved brother of the tyrannical Heaven Emperor. Despite his young age, his cultivation was high, and he was even conferred the title of vassal king by the tyrannical Heaven Emperor. Return to the royal city? If I don't capture Dongyu Shui, do you think I can return to the royal city? Ba Fei said angrily. This, Wu Liang was very depressed. Ba Fei's injury was not a small matter. If anything happened to Ba Fei in his army, he would definitely be buried with him. The main commander of the tyrant army was Wu Liang, a god-level expert. Wu Liang naturally wanted Ba Fei to return to the royal city, but after being shot by Princess Dongyu, Ba Fei actually wanted to stay in the army and fight to the death with Princess Dongyu. What do you mean by this and that? Whoever dares to ask me to return to the royal city can scram, Ba Fei said angrily. In his agitation, the wound on his shoulder was affected, causing him to break out in cold sweat from the pain. The arrow was still stuck in his shoulder, and no one dared to pull it out. What are you waiting for? Get someone to treat me, Ba Fei roared. Yes. Wu Liang had no choice but to summon the medical officer in the army. Soon, an old man walked into the tent, followed by two young disciples, who each carried a box in their hands. The old man brought the two disciples forward. The two disciples opened the wooden box, and there were various tools and pills for treating external injuries. Soon, Ba Fei's arrow wound was treated, and he took the pills. The group of generals retreated from the room. General, with His Royal Highness here, we are restricted in every way. How can we fight this war? A dark-skinned, tall, and exceptionally strong general cautiously said to Wu Liang. The other generals nodded when they heard this. In the army, Ba Fei was absolutely superior to Wu Liang, the commander-in-chief. This was because Ba Fei was a royal highness, the younger brother of Ba Tian. He was an existence that was second only to Wu Liang. Sigh. Wu Liang sighed. He did not say anything, and strode forward. The generals hurriedly chased after him. At this time, in Black Chilean City, in the main hall of the city, a woman in white sat on the throne, looking down at the generals in the hall. Chapter 5604. In the easternmost region of the Boundless Realm, a great battle broke out between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Sky Empire. However, such battles were quite common in the easternmost region. This was because there would always be friction between dynasties and superpowers. The battle between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical Sky Empire did not cause too much of a stir in the easternmost region, and the Boundless Emperor would not care about a battle of this level at all. Gu Fei's soul sense taking over the body of a soldier from the East Moon Empire's Black Chilean city did not attract anyone's attention. Gu Fei had a clone in the Boundless Realm. However, his clone had lost all contact with his original body in the lower realm. His original body in the lower realm could not sense the existence of his clone in the Boundless Realm at all. In other words, unless Gu Fei's clone completely matured and left the Boundless Realm, Gu Fei's original body in the lower realm would not be able to sense his clone's existence. Gu Fei could wait. At this moment, Gu Fei's clone was mixed in with the countless soldiers in the city. At this time, after a big battle, everyone was tired and hungry. The Cook's army units in the city carried wooden buckets filled with rice and meat over. All the soldiers surrounded them like madmen. They did not use bowls and chopsticks. They directly grabbed the rice and roasted meat in the buckets and wolfed it down. Some choked and coughed. The army cooks put down the buckets and ran away. In the eyes of these cooks from the army Cook's army, these defeated soldiers who returned to the city were all lunatics. There was food to eat and drinks to drink. Wooden barrels were brought out one after another. The barrels were filled with wine, and the fragrance of wine filled the air. Drinking boosted one's courage and also refreshed one's spirit. This would multiply the battle prowess of the soldiers. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and snatch it. The black tiger grabbed Gu Fei's clone and rushed forward. There was only so much food. If the others finished it, they would have nothing left to eat. Gu Fei's clone could not help but frown. He did not expect to end up fighting over food with a bunch of soldiers in the Boundless Realm. In this situation, he had no choice but to fight over food with others. He could only rush forward and smash the soldiers around the buckets with his fists. Then, he grabbed the rice in the buckets and stuffed it into his mouth. The other soldiers rushed forward and pushed Gu Fei's clone away. Gu Fei's doppelgangers could only fight against these warriors. He and the black tiger joined hands and easily defeated the battle soldiers around the wooden barrel. For a moment, the other battle soldiers were intimidated by the two of them and didn't dare to step forward. Soon, Gu Fei's doppelganger and the black tiger retreated after eating and drinking their fill. Only then did the surrounding battle soldiers rush forward, and another great battle for food ensued. Although the Boundless Realm was large and was the highest level of all worlds that Gu Fei knew, the competition here was even more intense than other worlds. In the Boundless Realm, powerful figures could summon the wind and rain, but the people at the bottom had to struggle to survive. Just like the countless soldiers of the East Moon Empire's Black Chilean city, they did not want to fight, because fighting would definitely result in death. However, they had no choice but to join the army. Only by joining the army and making contributions would they have a chance at success. In the army, whoever's fist was harder would be the boss. Very soon, all the soldiers had eaten and drunk their fill, then lay down on the ground to rest. Gu Fei's clone and the black tiger also sat on the ground. I hope the tyrannical Sky Empire retreats quickly. The black tiger sighed. It's impossible for us to retreat. Gu Fei's clone said solemnly. Nephew, why do you say that? The black tiger looked at Wang Zhong in astonishment. He did not know that the current Wang Zhong was no longer the same Wang Zhong as before. Because our princess injured an important figure of the tyrannical Sky Empire outside the city. Why do you think the tyrannical Sky Empire retreated so easily? Gu Fei's clone sighed. How do you know that Her Highness injured an important figure of the tyrannical Sky Empire? The black tiger was even more shocked. I guessed. Gu Fei's clone suddenly came to a realization. His current identity was Wang Zhong, a soldier of the East Moon Empire's Black Chilean city. He could not tell the black tiger that he saw the arrow shot by Her Highness. Guessed. The black tiger was speechless. At this moment, in the main hall of the Black Chilean city's City Lord residence, Princess Dongyu sat on the throne and looked down at the generals below. Do you have a plan to retreat? Dongyu Shuai asked. The generals in the main hall were silent. The tyrannical Sky Empire's army outside the city had surrounded the entire Black Cheline city. The tyrannical Sky Empire's army could attack Black Cheline city at any time. Who could think of a plan to retreat? Your Highness, when will our reinforcements arrive? The Black Cheline city lord asked carefully. How would I know? Dongyu Shuai said indifferently. After hearing Dongyu Shuai's words, the generals in the main hall were a little confused. Even Her Highness did not know when the reinforcements would arrive. How could they fight this battle? Although the tyrannical Sky Empire's army had surrounded the city, if the East Moon Empire's reinforcements arrived in time, it would not be difficult to annihilate the tyrannical Sky Empire's army. But now, everything was unknown. What, are you scared? Princess Dongyu sneered. Your Highness, I don't know how to write the word scared. A tall and mighty-looking general said in a loud voice. The generals looked over and saw that the one who spoke was Longxiang Man, also known as the Barbaric Bull. In the East Moon Empire, there were not many people with the compound surname Longxiang, but the clan was not weak. The great general of the East Moon Empire had the compound surname Longxiang. All the generals in the main hall, including the city lord, did not dare to underestimate Longxiang Man, because he was a madman who lived for battle. General Longxiang will definitely not be scared. I know this very well, but it's hard to say for the others. Princess Dongyu said in a deep voice. We are willing to live and die with Black Cheline City. The generals hurriedly bowed to Dongyu Shuai. Very well, listen up. What we need to do now is to defend Black Cheline City to the death, restrain the tyrannical Sky Empire's main force, and wait for reinforcements. Dongyu Shuai said loudly. Defend. The generals who bowed to the ground were shocked. Her Highness did not consider breaking out of the encirclement. They were only shouting that they would live and die with Black Cheline City, but deep down, they still wanted to escape. Only a fool would die for a city. That's right, when the reinforcements arrive, it will be time for us to counterattack. Dongyu Shuai said sternly. Chapter 5605. Jiyu Fei had successfully sent a strand of his will into the limitless realm. However, he had destroyed a carnate chaotic Tao body clone that he had painstakingly cultivated in the primal chaos. However, it was worth it. Didn't he cultivate a carnate chaotic Tao body clone so that he could send a strand of his will into the limitless realm? Divine will was the purest thing. Even if it entered the limitless realm, it would not be suppressed by the power of heaven and earth. This allowed Jiyu Fei's divine will to easily take over a body. However, the person he had taken over, Wang Zhon, was only a small soldier under the command of the East Moon Empire in the limitless realm's East Pole region. He only knew some basic cultivation methods. With Wang Zhon's cultivation, he could barely be considered to be in the early stages of the human level. Although the limitless realm was an almost perfect world, and there were as many cultivation systems as there were hairs on a cow, there were countless cultivation methods. However, the real top-level cultivation methods were in the hands of the major forces. In the limitless realm, the real top-level cultivation methods were not something that ordinary people could cultivate. In fact, in any world, only the strong could live freely. The weak could only rely on the strong. For example, a small soldier like Wang Zhon had to risk his life for the sake of survival. This was the reality that made people feel helpless. Wang Zhon's spirit was currently sleeping in his sea of knowledge. He had temporarily become Jiyu Fei's clone in the limitless realm. Jiyu Fei's will did not completely erase Wang Zhon's spirit. Wang Zhon's experience made Jiyu Fei feel very emotional. This was a soldier who had no choice but to become a soldier for the sake of his family. He had to live every day without rest. However, for the sake of his family, he felt that it was worth it. As long as he made military contributions, he could let his mother and sister live a good life. They would no longer be mocked and bullied. Before Jiyu Fei had reached the Tao, he had also been ridiculed by his fellow disciples in the Taishen sect. But now, those fellow disciples who had bullied him did not have the last laugh. The supreme mystery sect of the human realm had long since perished, But eldest senior brother Li Lingfeng rebuilt the Supreme Mystery Sect. After leaving the human realm for so long, Ji Yufei did not know what the human realm was like now, nor did he know how the development of the Supreme Profound Sect that Li Lingfeng had rebuilt was. Ji Yufei knew very well that he had a lot of enemies, but with Old Tortoise and Hei Tian watching over the human world and the heavenly realm, nothing should happen to them. Of course, most importantly, he had left Yang and her mother the strongest Dao artifact. This was the only way for the mother and daughter to survive. At this moment, in the Void Realm, Ji Yufei, who was cultivating in seclusion above the ninth heaven, was very calm. Thinking back on his life, the luckiest thing he had ever done was to meet Yang and have a daughter. Being alone was too lonely. If he was always alone, Ji Yufei didn't dare to imagine what would happen. He might go crazy. However, ever since he had Yang and his daughter, he had something to worry about. He felt like he was a person again, a real person, a person of flesh and blood. With them, he could not forget his original intention and advance bravely on the path of cultivation. For the sake of his family, for the sake of his brothers, he could not fall. This was Ji Yufei's persistence, and it was also the motivation for Ji Yufei to move forward bravely. Should I take advantage of this time to go back to the human realm? Ji Yufei muttered to himself. At this moment, the Void Realm was undergoing a huge change. Ji Yufei had almost subdued all the infinite primes in the Void Realm. As Ji Yufei's successor, Xiao Ya and Long Xiaoju had also begun on the path of dominating the Void Realm. No one dared to resist, and all the forces chose to surrender. It couldn't be helped. Right now, Ji Yufei was invincible in the Void Realm. In reality, a single Ji Yufei wasn't scary, but if Yang Wu, the Emperor, Sacred Master Void Sky's clone, the Everlasting Fire Spirit, and the Limitless Demonic Lord were added to the mix, who would be able to fight against Ji Yufei? That Mo Ying who escaped. Don't joke around. Mo Ying was undeniably strong, but she couldn't even handle Yang Wu. However, Mo Ying was still a hidden danger. Soon, all the forces in the Middle Sky region of the Void Realm surrendered, followed by the North Ruins, the West Sea, and the Eastern Wastelands. The Eastern Wastelands demon race also completely gave up resisting. The Eastern Wastelands demon race army that was trapped in the Southern Barbarians chose to surrender. There was really no other way. Ji Yufei was too strong, so strong that he could make anyone despair. How could the Eastern Wastelands demon race resist Ji Yufei's people? However, the Void Realm wasn't small. It wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Of course, it was only a matter of time. Just when Ji Yufei's main body was wondering if he should return to the human world, Ji Yufei's clone was living a very sullen life in Black Chilean City in the Unbounded Realm. Ji Yufei's clone basically solved the problem of food and clothing, and then a place to stay. After resting enough, he followed the Black Tiger back to the army camp in Black Chilean City. Because of the defeat, the morale of the East Moon Empire's soldiers was very low. The army camp in the city was very big, and there wasn't just one. There were a total of 4 camps in the city, and they weren't far from the city gate. This way, it was convenient to dispatch troops at any time. The camp where Ji Yufei's clone was at was the camp at the East Gate. This was also the largest camp in southern Chilean City, and there were at least 30,000 soldiers stationed there all year round. The 4 camps in the city had to maintain at least 100,000 soldiers to be able to deal with the tyrannical Sky Empire's attack. But now, after the battle on the plains outside the city, more than half of southern Chilean City's army was lost, and wounded soldiers could be seen everywhere in the city. If the tyrannical Sky Empire's army attacked the city now, there was a good chance they could break through. Of course, the East Moon Empire was fighting with their backs to the wall. Even if the tyrannical Sky Empire could break through Black Chilean City, they would have to pay a huge price. The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire were still hesitating, because if the losses were too great, they wouldn't have it easy either. In fact, the most important thing was that the commander of the tyrannical Sky Empire, Wu Liang, was worried about a Dao tool, which was in the hands of Princess Dongyu Shui. Dongyu Shui used it to injure Ba Fei. Ba Fei's identity was not ordinary. He was the younger brother of the current emperor of the tyrannical Sky Empire, and the most favored one at that. He was conferred the title of king at a young age. He was the youngest king in the entire tyrannical Sky Empire. He had his own fief, and even his own army. His fief was his small kingdom. In the tyrannical Sky Empire, kings were not allowed to have armies, because if they did, it was very easy for them to become disloyal and rebel. This was the last thing the emperor of the tyrannical Sky Empire wanted to see. However, Ba was a special existence. Not only did he have a fief, but he also had an army. This was definitely unique in the tyrannical Sky Empire. He had been injured by Dongyu Shui, so how could he let it go? This battle was inevitable. Chapter 5606. In the easternmost region of the Infinite Realm, the war between the East Moon Empire and the tyrannical empire continued. The East Moon Empire was defeated and retreated to Black Chelene City, while the tyrannical empire's troops were at the city gates. However, the commander of the tyrannical empire, Wu Liang, was hesitating. This was because there was an important figure of the East Moon Empire in Black Chelene City, and this person also possessed a supreme treasure of the empire. The East Moon Bow was the supreme treasure of the East Moon Empire. Previously, Shui had used it to almost kill Lord Ba of the tyrannical empire. With the East Moon Bow in hand, Shui had the confidence to challenge the army of the tyrannical empire outside the city. Even Ba had been injured by her arrow, so it would be even more difficult for others to block it. If Shui targeted the generals of the tyrannical empire, how could they fight this war? In the tyrannical empire's military camp. General, we can't go on like this. If Dongyue's reinforcements arrive, we'll be surrounded by them. In Wu Liang's tent, the generals all looked at Wu Liang, who sat in the seat of honor. Yeah, we should attack the city before their reinforcements arrive. One of the generals agreed. Shui in Black Chelene City could afford to delay, but they couldn't. With Shui trapped in Black Chelene City, the East Moon Empire would definitely send reinforcements. This was without a doubt. Even though the tyrannical Sky Empire had won the battle and gained the upper hand, there were still several tens of thousands of soldiers from the East Moon Empire in Black Chelene City. If the East Moon Empire's reinforcements arrived, they would be done for. General, let's fight. The generals were filled with fighting spirit. This was a rare opportunity for them to take down Black Chelene City. Black Chelene City's geographical location was very important. The entire city stood at the entrance to the East Moon Empire's hinterland. If the tyrannical empire wanted to march in and destroy the East Moon Empire, they had to take down Black Chelene City first. As long as Black Chelene City was still under the control of the East Moon Empire, the tyrannical empire couldn't destroy the East Moon Empire. The tyrannical empire and the tyrannical empire had fought openly and covertly for thousands of years. They both knew the importance of Black Chelene City very well. The tyrannical Sky Empire had defeated the army of the East Moon Empire more than once, but they had never been able to breach Black Chelene City. General, don't hesitate. This is a golden opportunity for us to make a name for ourselves. A general said excitedly. If they could take down Black Chelene City, allowing the army of the tyrannical Sky Empire to directly charge into the hinterlands of the East Moon Empire, this kind of unparalleled military achievement would be enough for them to be conferred the title of Marquis and Minister. As the Commander-in-Chief, it was impossible for Wu Liang not to be tempted. However, even though he was moved, he didn't say anything. He was still able to keep his composure because he was very clear that he needed to be calm, calmer than ever. General, say something. A general with a scar on his face said. They were all Wu Liang's confidants. If Wu Liang could make up his mind to attack Black Chelene City, as the commander, Wu Liang could eat the meat, and they could drink the soup by following Wu Liang. One had to know that no one had ever been able to break into Black Chelene City. If Wu Liang succeeded in breaking into the city, it would be a great achievement. With Wu Liang's achievement in breaking into Black Chelene City, it was not impossible for him to be conferred the title of Marquis. His Highness is still here. We can't ignore His Highness's safety. Wu Liang pondered for a long time, then suddenly sighed. Hearing this, the generals couldn't help but be startled. Only now did they realize that their Lord General was wary of King Ba. That made sense. With Lord Ba here, Even if Wu Liang could break into Black Qilin City, the greatest achievement would not belong to him, but to Lord Ba Fei. In that case, conferring the title of Marquis and Minister, or conferring the title of Marquis would all be for naught. Wu Liang did not want to be hot-headed and work for others. That was not his style. I put in the most effort, so why should I give the credit to others for nothing? General, there's no need to worry about my safety. Just attack the city. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from outside the tent. Then, a figure flashed at the entrance, and a person directly walked in. The generals in the tent hurriedly looked at the person and saw that it was their young Lord Ba Fei. Greetings, Your Highness. Wu Liang hurriedly stood up and cupped his hands at Ba Fei when he saw him. Greetings, Your Highness. The generals hurriedly stood up and bowed as well. It could not be helped. In a strictly hierarchical empire like the tyrannical Sky Empire, Ba Fei's status was extremely noble. Even a commander-in-chief like Wu Liang had to be respectful to Ba Fei, not daring to slight him. This was because Ba Fei represented the royal family of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Your Highness, they have the East Moon Bow, a Dao weapon. If we attack the city now, Wu Liang wanted to say something but hesitated. East Moon Bow. Ba Fei was instantly enraged. He was injured by Dong Yu Shui with the East Moon Bow. Recalling the scene that day, Ba Fei gritted his teeth in hatred. If he had not been wearing armor to protect himself, Dong Yu Shui's arrow would have taken his life. Is the East Moon Bow that powerful? When my sky-dominating shield and sky spear arrive, I'll charge straight into Black Qilin City and capture Dong Yu Shui. I'll make her my maid. With that, Ba Fei turned around and left angrily, leaving behind a group of dumbfounded generals. Even Wu Liang was a little dumbfounded. The sky-dominating shield and sky spear were the ultimate treasures of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Did the Emperor want to fight the East Moon Empire to the death? At this time, Jiyu Fei's clone did not care too much about it. What he needed to do now was to grow and become stronger as quickly as possible. Because only by becoming strong would he be able to survive. After returning to his residence at the Eastern Gate Barracks, he sat down on the ship and began to try cultivating. Wang Zhon, you're quite something now. Why didn't you come to serve me when you came back? Are you itching for a beating? At this moment, a few soldiers kicked open the wooden door and walked in arrogantly. There's still a pile of clothes outside. Why aren't you going to wash them? The ferocious-looking general in the lead shouted at Jiyu Fei's clone who was sitting on the bed. Scram. Jiyu Fei's doppelganger didn't even look at these guys and said coldly. What? The soldiers were a little dumbfounded. How dare you tell our boss to scram? Looks like this guy is really asking for a beating. Another soldier stared at Jiyu Fei's clone with a hideous smile. Then what are you waiting for? Let's teach this guy a lesson. The boss said coldly. Are you really going to teach me a lesson? Are you sure? Jiyu Fei's clone sighed and said. So what if we teach you a lesson? We'll teach you a lesson too little. The boss said disdainfully. Sigh, it's too hard for me. Chapter 5607. Jiyu Fei's clone was speechless. It seemed that he would encounter some annoying people wherever he went. In fact, the unbounded realm was no different from other worlds. The only difference was that the living beings here were born with almost endless lifespans. That was because there was something in the unbounded realm that could allow the living beings here to live forever. Jiyu Fei's clone did not know what it was. Perhaps it was a law of heaven and earth. Jiyu Fei's doppelganger did not know whether the outsiders from other worlds would also have an almost endless lifespan here. However, his priority now was to survive. The tyrannical Sky Empire's army was outside the city, and they could attack Black Qilin City at any time. Inside the city, there were also ruffian soldiers who ran amok and bullied the good. The ruffian soldiers were tyrannical in the military camp. Their clothes did not need to be washed, and their food and drinks were all served to them. If they were even slightly dissatisfied, they would be punched and stomped on. Many soldiers were furious, but did not dare to speak up. These ruffian soldiers usually had a backer behind them. Who would dare to fight with these ruffian soldiers? Jiyu Fei's clone, Wang Zhon, was bullied by the ruffian soldiers. Even his hard-earned military merits were falsely claimed by these ruffian soldiers. Wang Zhon could not wait to tear these ruffian soldiers into pieces. However, reality was cruel. In order to survive in the military camp, he could only choose to endure. Now, these ruffian soldiers were here again. The leader of the ruffian soldiers was called Tu Xiao. He was really arrogant, just like his name. Wang Zhon, you're really something. How dare you look down on our boss? One of the ruffian soldiers sneered. I told you to scram, but you didn't. You're asking for it. You can't blame anyone. Ji Yufei's doppelganger swept a cold glance at these fellows. What did you say? Tu Xiao, who was the leader, glared at them. A murderous aura immediately spread from his body. Although Tu Xiao was the leader of the ruffian soldiers, he was also a ruthless person who had climbed out of a pile of corpses. Otherwise, he would not have become the leader of the ruffian soldiers. You've bullied me enough. Now it's my turn to bully you. Ji Yufei's doppelganger suddenly smiled at Tu Xiao. Tu Xiao was stunned when he saw this. Are you crazy? The wretched soldier next to Tu Xiao pointed at Ji Yufei's clone and roared. This guy is crazy. The other ruffian soldier also stared at Wang Zhon in shock. They had never imagined that the Wang Zhon in front of them was no longer the Wang Zhon that they could bully in the past. Although he had Wang Zhon's appearance, his soul was actually Ji Yufei's clone. Ji Yufei's doppelganger had read Wang Zhon's memories, so he naturally knew what kind of people these people were. Naturally, he wouldn't be polite to them. What are you waiting for? Tu Xiao glared at Ji Yufei's doppelganger and roared. In the next moment, figures flashed. The ruffian soldiers behind Tu Xiao charged forward and surrounded Ji Yufei's clone. The room in the barracks wasn't very spacious, and there were dozens of wooden beds. At this time, the other soldiers in the barracks had already fled when they saw that the situation wasn't good. Many people were standing outside the door, watching the commotion. Wang Zhon is going to be beaten up badly this time. The people outside the door could already imagine what would happen to Wang Zhon. Of course, if the person inside was the real Wang Zhon, he would definitely be beaten up badly by Tu Xiao and the others. Unfortunately, the person inside was no longer Wang Zhon. In the next moment, a dull sound of impact was heard. The ruffian soldiers who attacked Ji Yufei's clone were directly sent flying and smashed into the wall, the ground, and the wooden bed. The barracks was immediately in a mess. Everyone outside the barracks was stunned when they saw this scene. Everyone's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Tu Xiao was shocked and angry. How could Wang Zhon suddenly become so powerful? Could it be that this guy had been pretending to be weak all this time? Sigh, I've always said that it's too difficult for me. Why do you guys like to be tortured so much? Ji Yufei's clone sighed. Just now, he had directly sent those guys who attacked him flying with a punch. Ji Yufei was a supreme expert in the infinite realm. Naturally, his clone had inherited all his combat experience. Who could compare to him in close combat? Didn't you want to beat me up? Why aren't you making a move? Ji Yufei's clone looked at Tu Xiao opposite him with a faint smile. Tu Xiao's expression changed several times when he heard that. He was now in a difficult position. If he were to admit defeat now, would he still have the face to stay here? However, if he did not admit defeat, he would probably be in a worse situation. Why does Wang Zhon seem to have changed into a different person? At this moment, the people outside were in an uproar. In their eyes, Wang Zhon was a coward who was used to being bullied by Tu Xiao and never dared to resist. However, today, Wang Zhon actually dared to challenge Tu Xiao. This was inexplicable. Damn it. If I don't break your arms and legs today, my surname is not Tu Xiao roared furiously. He stomped on the ground and leaped into the air. Then, he kicked at Ji Yufei's clone. His kick was fast, ruthless, and accurate. His right leg was like a spear as it ruthlessly kicked at Ji Yufei's clone's heart. If the kick landed, Ji Yufei's clone's chest would probably explode, and he would die on the spot. It was obvious that Tu Xiao had trained before. Moreover, his battle prowess was much greater than that of ordinary soldiers in the East Moon Empire. In the East Moon Empire's military camp, How could Tu Xiao become the leader of the ruffians if he did not have any abilities? No matter when or where, only the strong would not be bullied by others, nor would they be afraid of being bullied. The principle of the strong preying on the weak was the same no matter where it was. If Wang Zhong was still the Wang Zhong of the past, he would suffer a terrible fate. However, this time, the unlucky one was definitely not the current Wang Zhong. At this moment, Ji Yufei's clone extended his right hand and grabbed Tu Xiao's incoming right leg. What? Tu Xiao's shock was no small matter. Before Tu Xiao could react, Ji Yufei's clone had already treated Tu Xiao like a rag sack. He began to swing him around, and then smashed him onto the ground. Bam! With a dull thud, dust flew into the air in the barracks. A crater was formed on the hard floor, and countless cracks appeared on the limestone floor. Everyone felt the ground shake. This fall was definitely not light. Tu Xiao screamed in pain as he coughed up blood. Who knew how many bones in his body had been broken? Ji Yufei's clone did not show any mercy, because this guy was too despicable. How could he not teach him a lesson? He was avenging Wang Zhong. After all, he had possessed Wang Zhong's body. Chapter 5608. The Boundless Realm, the East Moon Empire, Southern Qilin City, in the Eastern Barracks. In the barracks, Ji Yufei's clone directly defeated the leader of the ruffians, Tu Xiao. Everyone who witnessed this was stunned. How was this possible? How did Wang Zhong become so powerful all of a sudden? One should know that Tu Xiao was not an ordinary person. This fellow had some background. Moreover, Tu Xiao's combat strength was not weak. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, who would believe that Wang Zhong could defeat Tu Xiao in one move? Moreover, Wang Zhong seemed to have defeated Tu Xiao effortlessly. This made everyone who knew about Wang Zhong inexplicably shocked. Could it be that this guy had a fortuitous encounter and his cultivation had improved greatly? Someone guessed. However, no one could imagine that the Wang Zhong in front of them was no longer the Wang Zhong of the past. The current Wang Zhong was just a clone of Ji Yufei in the Boundless Realm. Of course, apart from Wang Zhong himself, no one knew about this. Tu Xiao was basically crippled. He had been thrown to the ground by Ji Yufei's clone, who knew how many bones in his body had been broken, and he kept coughing up blood. Wang Zhong, do you know who my uncle is? How dare you injure me? Tu Xiao glared at Ji Yufei's clone as he spoke through gritted teeth. He wanted nothing more than to tear the guy in front of him into pieces. I don't care who your uncle is. Since you've provoked me, I'll teach you a lesson all the same. Ji Yufei's clone said coldly. Is that so? Are you sure you want to teach me a lesson? At this moment, a voice rang out from outside. Then, the soldiers blocking the entrance of the barracks hurriedly retreated. Ji Yufei looked up and saw a middle-aged general in battle armor standing outside the door. The middle-aged general was staring at him coldly. The middle-aged general gave off a powerful aura, and his eyes were extremely sharp. Regular soldiers would have been terrified under his gaze. However, Ji Yufei was fearless. His original body was an infinite prime. Even in the Boundless Realm, infinite primes were formidable figures. It should be noted that the 5 magnates of the Boundless Realm were only infinite primes. How could Ji Yufei's doppelganger be afraid of a mere Earth-stage battle general? However, in the eyes of ordinary warriors, Earth-rank warriors were invincible existences. Upon seeing this warrior, all the warriors retreated far away. In Black Qilin City, an Earth-rank battle general was merely the lowest rank of battle general. With such a person as his backing, it was no wonder that Tu Xiao could be so unbridled in the military camp. Who would care about these ruffian soldiers? Who are you? Ji Yufei looked at the general outside the door and said indifferently, You're not afraid of me? Seeing that the person in front of him did not show any fear, the battle general could not help but feel shocked. Looking at this person's clothes, he was just a small soldier in the city. For a lowly soldier in the city to not fear a general like him, this was somewhat abnormal. Why should I be afraid of you? Ji Yufei's doppelganger was still very calm. In this way, the general was a little wary of him. The reason why he could become a battle general in Black Qilin City was because of his own ability and his cautiousness. He knew that there were some people that he could not offend. Hu Feng was an inner disciple of Black Qilin City's Tiger Clan. To be able to become a guardian general of Black Qilin City, he could not do without the support of his clan. He knew that some of the big clans in the city would send their most important disciples to the lower levels to temper themselves. And these people could not be offended. Hu Feng did not dare to underestimate Ji Yufei's doppelganger because he could not see through Ji Yufei's doppelganger's actual strength. He did not want to offend those nobles in the city for a good-for-nothing nephew. Moreover, this was a critical period. The army of the tyrannical Sky Empire was already at the city gates and could attack at any time. At this time, Hu Feng did not want to complicate matters. Seeing his uncle's hesitation, Tu Xiao became anxious. "Uncle, he's just a small soldier without any background. You have to avenge me." Tu Xiao, who was lying on the ground, cried. At this time, Tu Xiao, who had always been extremely vicious and ruthless, was actually crying bitterly like a bullied child. The people who saw this scene were all stupefied. A small soldier without any backing? When Hu Feng heard that, his eyes immediately became fierce again. If this little guy in front of him was really just a small soldier without any backing, then even if he killed this little guy, others would not dare to say anything. Wasn't it a piece of cake for a battle general to kill a small soldier? "What? You want to kill me?" Ji Yufei suddenly said with a smile. He could sense a murderous aura suddenly exuding from the battle general outside the door. Although this murderous aura was very weak and was controlled very well by this battle general, he still sensed it. Hu Feng could not help being startled when he heard that. He just had the intention to kill this little guy, and this little guy immediately sensed it. This way, Hu Feng became even more apprehensive towards Ji Yufei. How could such a character not have a background? In Hu Feng's eyes, this young man in front of him was much more outstanding than those nobles' disciples in the city. How could this kind of person be easily offended? What nonsense are you babbling about? Why aren't the few of you carrying that guy for treatment? Hu Feng shouted at Tu Xiao's subordinates. Yes, yes, yes. Tu Xiao's subordinates hurriedly went forward and carefully carried Tu Xiao out of the barracks. Ji Yufei's clone looked on coldly and did not say anything. "Little guy, this general should have punished you for neglecting this general today, but now that the Sky Tyrant's army is at the city gates, this is a time of need. This general will spare you this time. If you offend again next time, then don't blame this general for being merciless." Hu Feng did not wait for Ji Yufei to speak and immediately turned to leave. No one had expected such an ending. Everyone thought that Wang Zhong was going to be in big trouble this time. One had to know that although this Hu Feng was the lowest level battle general, he was still a disciple of the Tiger Clan after all. In Black Qilin City, the power of the Tiger Clan was not small. This was also the reason why Tu Xiao could run amok in the military camp without anyone daring to stop him. "Honorable nephew, you offended Hu Feng today. You have to be careful in the future." Mystic Black Tiger came to the side of Ji Yufei's clone and said worriedly. In his eyes, Ji Yufei's doppelganger was the son of his benefactor. Furthermore, his benefactor only had this one son. If anything were to happen to Wang Zhong, their Wang family would have no descendants. This was something that Mystic Black Tiger did not want to see. "Uncle Mystic, in no time, no one in the entire Black Qilin City will dare to bully us," Ji Yufei's clone said with a serious expression. When Mystic Black Tiger heard this, he could not help but look at Ji Yufei's clone in disbelief. His nephew seemed to have really changed. What was going on? Chapter 5609. The East Moon Empire's Black Qilin City was an extremely important city. It directly guarded the entrance to the East Moon Empire's territory. The city was surrounded by cliffs. If the army of the tyrannical Sky Empire wanted to attack the East Moon Empire, there was only one way, and that was to take down Black Qilin City. However, it was not an easy task to conquer Black Qilin City. This was because the East Moon Empire had stationed a large number of soldiers in Black Qilin City. Black Qilin City itself was also protected by layers of defensive formations. As long as the defensive formations were activated, they could block the army of the tyrannical Sky Empire. This was also where Dong Yu Shue's confidence came from. As long as the army of the tyrannical Sky Empire could not break through the defensive formations, Black Chilean City would be safe. Of course, the tyrannical Sky Empire had already made ample preparations this time. Lord Barfay had even brought several dozen formation masters. He was prepared to fight to the death with Dongyu Shui. Moreover, Barfay would not let go of this opportunity to make a great contribution. This was also the reason why Barfay was unwilling to return to the royal city even though he was injured by Dongyu Shui's East Moon Bow. Of course, these things had nothing to do with Ji Yufei's clone. The only thing he had to do now was to survive. Only by surviving could he rise to power. If he died, nothing would happen to his original body, but all his efforts would be in vain. However, he had beaten up Tu Xiao in the army camp, and Tu Xiao had his uncle, Hu Feng, behind him. Therefore, he had offended the Hu clan of Black Chilean City. Fortunately, Hu Feng could not tell the strength of Ji Yufei's clone and was somewhat wary of him. Moreover, Hu Feng did not want to cause unnecessary trouble when the army of the tyrannical Sky Empire was at the city gates, so he did not attack him. However, Ji Yufei's clone knew very well that once Hu Feng knew he was a soldier without any background, he would definitely attack him without hesitation. Hu Feng was an Earth-rank battle general. With the current cultivation of Ji Yufei's clone, he was no match for an Earth-rank battle general. If Hu Feng attacked him, he would be in deep trouble. Therefore, he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to increase his cultivation and combat strength as soon as possible. Ever since Ji Yufei's doppelganger dealt with Tu Xiao and the others, no one else dared to cause trouble for him. Soon, night fell. Ji Yufei's doppelganger sat cross-legged on the wooden bed. In the dead of night, when all the soldiers in the barracks were asleep, Ji Yufei's doppelganger suddenly opened his eyes and stood up from the bed. He quietly snuck out of the barracks and headed for the east gate. Ji Yufei's clone wasn't far from the east gate. Although the gate and the city walls were heavily guarded, he still easily avoided the countless guards and climbed over the wall. In the eyes of Ji Yufei's clone, the various protective formations of Black Chilean City held no secrets at all. He was an existence with the knowledge of an infinite prime. Although he had lost his astonishing cultivation as an infinite prime, his comprehension and understanding of the way of formations would not vanish. With his cultivation in formations, he could easily find over a dozen flaws in the protective formations of Black Chilean City. Ji Yufei's clone could enter and leave Black Chilean City freely. The protective formations could not stop him. Under the cover of the night, Ji Yufei's clone left Black Chilean City secretly and snuck into the barracks of the tyrannical Sky Empire outside the city. He was truly audacious. With his cultivation at the early human level, he would definitely be dead if he was discovered by the people of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Ji Yufei's doppelganger knocked out a soldier from the tyrannical Sky dynasty, then dragged him into a dark corner. He changed into the soldier's clothes and swaggered out of the room. He had snuck into the army of hundreds of thousands at night. He had even dirted his face, so no one could tell he was a fake. There was not much in the barracks, but there was no shortage of people. Ji Yufei was not here to play around. After thinking about it, there seemed to be only one way for him to rise as quickly as possible. He had to do this. He knew that Hu Feng of the Hu family of Black Chilean City would find out about him very soon. Once Hu Feng found out that he was a soldier without any backing, he would be in danger. He was like a ghost, appearing and disappearing in the barracks of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Wherever he passed by, soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire would disappear. The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire did not die, but their cultivation had been sucked away by Ji Yufei's clone. Yes, this was the shortcut for Ji Yufei to become stronger. Devouring the cultivation of others. The soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire were generally at the early human level. Ji Yufei's clone continued to attack. Very soon, he had devoured the cultivation of dozens of soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire. The cultivation of Ji Yufei's clone continued to soar. The early human level, the mid-human level, the great achievement. The strength of Ji Yufei's clone was constantly increasing. Only by breaking through to the earth level would he have the ability to fight Hu Feng. If he only had the cultivation of the human level, he could only be oppressed by Hu Feng. In less than 2 hours, The cultivation of Ji Yufei's clone had soared to the great achievement of the human level. He was already one step away from the peak of the human level. The cultivation speed of Ji Yufei's clone was definitely the fastest in the entire limitless realm. It was unprecedented, because in the limitless realm, no one would use such a method to rapidly increase their cultivation like him. Cultivation required accumulation. The path to becoming an expert required one to take one step at a time. However, Ji Yufei's clone was an exception. At this time, Ji Yufei's clone was frantically devouring the cultivation of the soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire. Before long, the soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire who had been knocked unconscious were discovered by the other soldiers. Then, the entire military camp was suddenly on guard. Countless soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire moved. It was definitely not a small matter that an enemy had infiltrated the military camp. Even Wu Liang, the commander-in-chief of the army, was alarmed. Wu Liang personally ordered the entire military camp to be searched. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, they had to find those despicable fellows hiding in the camp. However, Wu Liang and the others couldn't even find a single hair. However, they did find those people who were hiding with Ji Yufei's clone. 263 soldiers of the tyrannical Sky Empire were attacked by a mysterious enemy. What Wu Liang couldn't understand was that the person who attacked these soldiers didn't kill them. However, these soldiers all had one thing in common, and that was that their cultivation base was gone. What's going on? Wu Liang was somewhat dumbfounded. The cultivation of these soldiers wasn't high. Why would someone devour their cultivation? He never dreamed that this was the doing of Ji Yufei's clone. Moreover, Ji Yufei's clone had already left the tyrannical Sky Empire's military camp when he saw that the situation wasn't right.